and I am on another level. On another level. On another level. On another level. On another level.
Good evening. Welcome to Gravel Spotlight. I'm Benno, and I don't know what that intro was.
I'm JP.
Will Ospreay got a lot of explaining to do.
It was from when, you'd remember, it was the bit when it was like Ospreay.
Oh, I know. I just don't know what he was playing at. Like, has he been going to, like, is that dubstep? Or, like, what kind of clubs has he been going to? Is it kind of your old haunts from when you were at your teenage days, JP? Was this your style of music?
Mine was jungle and drum and bass. That was very...
Is that not that? Is that like jungle?
No,
I don't know what type of music it is.
Jungle. That's That's adding a lot of slight to jungle there by saying that feels like
we've had a lot of jungle slight on this podcast in the past.
That feels like dubstep. The amount of times in the past to try and get a jungle theme to open up with, and you just be like, no, I'm not having that. It's like fucking Super Sharpshooter or something like that comes on. But it was, when it happened, I was listening and I was like, is this a piss take? Have I got like some dodgy version or something like that? I couldn't quite work it out at all.
Them and Aussie Open been to some wild like retro clubs or something like that. Dubstep, Andy's saying in the chat. See, we don't know. Maybe we're the ones who are out of it. We're the ones who don't. Is that not jungle? Says old man Benno. Simon says here. Like I know what I'm talking about. If it's not boom bap hip hop from the 90s, then to be fair, I don't know anything. So yeah, that was the thing. Thank God it went into Elevated, as Don says there in the chat. Which in fairness, was brought back by popular demand by Will himself. So he can have his weird little intro if he likes. And it gave us a weird little intro here live with our patrons on a Tuesday night. Oh, well, otherwise, JP, have you been to any dubstep clubs, or have you been up to much since we last spoke?
Mate, the last time I was in a club, I think it would be with you. You've been to the Tip, which isn't like some new club that's opened up in the centre of Liverpool.
Hipster club. 100%, yeah. And they serve you like drinks out of just like a fancy little like glass, or like a bowl, or a bowl of cornflakes or something like that. They come up with weird stuff. We're sounding older and older, I think.
We're not a million miles away from someone setting up some bespoke craft brewery in the middle of a Tip.
Yeah,
just the bit where you dump the tellies. You could see that happening. It feels like, think of the one with Joe's wedding. It's right near a bloody Travis Perkins.
It's true.
It's just.
It could be the next thing. I was talking to a handful about this today to date the record, and obviously I'm going away soon. I've been moved, hence why I was at the Tip, moving a lot of boxes today, getting a lot of things due. Double duty. We recorded a housekeeping that will be coming soon on the Benno and Hamflet in your house feed. We are a little bit ahead, professional podcasters. It's what we're trying to be anyway, and possibly flailing once people get to listen to that. But we were talking the Tip a little bit on that, and he was saying that like back in his day, his local Tip had like a tuck shop kind of thing. I think it was what he was saying at the Tip, like where I shouldn't missell it. I'm not sure they necessarily sold snacks, but they sold like people's stuff that they'd taken to the dump and they didn't want, but it was actually pretty good. And there was like a little shop there that you could go and get it. And apparently, according to Hamflet, was a great little place to get yourself some like WWF videotapes. I imagine maybe if it was in my area in Seaford, there'd been some WCW tapes from my local video shop. Apparently, it was the place to be. It was where I guess that's where all the tape traders went. So yeah, a club seems like the natural evolution of things.
I think that would be. I mean, like you could get one of those broken tellies, and there'll be a video player in there from somewhere doing a house clear out.
Someone will have WrestleFest 93 got from the Tip shop. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Do you know, I could easily... I mean, I don't want to... and here's me. I was about to start talking Sunderland about Mickey Hamflet, and I was thinking, I could see someone doing it. I could see Sunderland being a trailblazer for having like a nice little like craft brewery with a tuck shop and a copy of... I don't know, Capital Combat 90 or something like that in there from WCW playing in the background, getting pissed as there's a group of lads telling you to shift out of the way as they're moving from the fucking heavy duty wooden bit across in like a fucking like with a large articulated lorry. Yeah, I could easily see that happening.
I was saying to Hamflet, it's the most you feel like a man when you go to the tip. Like, it really is. Like, it's the most me dad I ever feel. Not that me dad's even that manly, to be fair. Good football player. Other such manly. I don't know if is that manly. I guess it is. I never feel like it, though. But when I'm there, you know, I get the car, I drive myself there. And then once you get there, I always have, like, the nerves of, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. And on your way in, the man always says something like, oh, like, you'll just ask what you've got. And I just panic. Like, all I need to say is wood and metal. And I start explaining myself, going, well, that's a basket and it's got some old wrestling DVDs in it. And that's like some paper. And he's like, yeah, you want to go to number 5, mate. And he sends me on. But then once I get in, I feel like I get into the mode of it, JP. And again, the wrestling fan comes out of me and I'm gorilla pressing me settee into the different buckets and such and having a grand old time. But you start to get into it and you start to feel like, I had a bit of an energy burst from doing it, from launching heavy things round. There's something in our DNA, I reckon, JP. I was tutting at some of the more middle-aged people knocking around in the tip who didn't really know what they were doing. I was thinking, I've been the tip 3 times today. This is very clearly your first time. Felt like not to go too. It maybe brought out my inner sexist a little bit, but it made me feel like a real man, JP. Made me feel proper, like a real person. Let's say that instead.
I become proper ageist because I'm always like, there's just so many elderly people, and I just want to turn around and go, right, you're going to get a fucking shift on or not? Because like it appears to be the next thing we're waiting for is your death, and I haven't got fucking time for that because. Like, I mean, we had to do so many tip journeys even when we were moving house. So all of that stuff was an absolute fucking nightmare. Like, and we were just never away from the place. And it was, and there's a lot of passive aggressive stuff going on. And there's not that much. I don't know. Depends. Is it one of the ones where you go to where you go in and it all goes, like, all of it goes around? Because there's one tip we go to where it goes all the way around. So, like, around to the exit. And so you'll stop at certain bits. And then there's the
wheel's shit to drive through.
Yeah. Oh, disgraceful. And you just feel like you're waiting for a bollocking. No, that doesn't go there. And they look at you like you should know this. And then there's times I'm just like, well, I don't fucking work here, mate. And you do. And it's literally part of your job to tell me where to go.
But like you say, by the 3rd time you go in the same day, you're the one going to the other people going, they don't know where they're going. Steph rightly points out here, by the way, in the chat, calls me out on her bullshit that her mum and her have been going a lot recently, and I did know that. Tip is for women now too. It's gone modern, the tip. I don't want to say it's gone woke, JP, but the recycling bits, where you've got to put like your bits of your glasses got to go in a certain. I couldn't figure that out. I had a mirror. I couldn't work out if it was wood or it was glass, and I felt like. Now that I've been there 3 times in the same day, I'd earned the respect of the man such that if I asked him such a rookie question, he might look at me the wrong way. But if I put it in the wrong bin, then he might look at me the wrong way even more. I wasn't quite sure what to do, so I just guessed and threw it in wood. Probably wrong. Somebody can tell me in the chat. But yeah, my little like electronics, they win in like their own little thing as well. There's like a little bit for tellies in our one as well. Have a great day on the tip. Brilliant. Tip talk. That's what people are in here for. That's what.
Always it for a bit. Exactly. This is the real pre-show now, isn't it? Yeah. Fuck off this AEW thing. I always want to say, it's not just tips for women, it's death matches as well, as we'll get into in a little bit. It's all happening these days, isn't it, in 2025?
I'll start complaining about Bin Collection Day next. I know. I actually went Mackey's again because I had the vehicle drive through. £10 for a meal, JP. I just feel like the world's gone mad at this point. But
get yourself to Burger King, mate.
Oh, cheaper. There's a drive. That's new. There's a drive-through Burger King by me. You don't see many of them. Drive-through KFCs felt like they were new. They've probably been around for about 15 years now. Drive-through Burger King, it's the new hotness in Liverpool. It's replaced our old favourite, Damon's Burger restaurant, which was never really a goer. I think it was a Chinese for a while after that, but yeah, great local Liverpool tips for you there. But while I was busy today being a demolition man, JP, we have plenty of other things to talk about, which must include, of course, our plugs as well for the Patreon. That's what we're doing this weekend. We were recording Sly Film Club, me, you, and Matty. We put it to the patrons. We let them vote. They got to pick any film that Sly Stallone had done in his career. Through our shortlist, we did leave the first Rocky off and Rambo off, so it was basically every other film he's ever done. They chose Demolition Man. I was very happy. You were very happy, JP. One man wasn't, Matty Edwards. If you wanted a Benno versus Matty Civil War, the likes of which you've never heard, the likes of which I still can't get to the bottom of, listen to that podcast. Spoilers, 1 star. Matty gave that film. I mean, I've heard some bad opinions before, Matty, from Matty JP, and mostly, they are his opinions, the bad ones that I can think of. That might be his worst. We did not co-sign that. It was a love-in otherwise, but it made for a very interesting conversation at the weekend.
It is, honestly to God, like, it's absolutely shocking. Like, sorry, I just got interrupted there by the door opening. I got completely confused. I was like, what the fuck is happening here? But yeah, I was completely bemused by that, because he appeared to, I don't know what it was, whether or not it was just the genre wasn't defined enough, but he seemed quietly annoyed that he was expecting like good old, like, sly action piece. And that's not what we fucking got. That's not what we got in the slightest. Like, you know, there's a bit of, you know, it's a good bit of comedy as much as anything else. But my God.
Great comedy, like, great performance.
Yeah, great comedy.
I'm still none the wiser, to be fair. Listen back to the podcast, folks, and tell me why Matty didn't like it and why it's a one-star film. Still don't get it. It's got everything that you think Matty would want. Great one-liners. I think a great Sly performance, and I think most people do. Matty didn't like the performance. Sandra Bullock's fantastic in it. Wesley Snipes, like, that's like main event level charisma in that film, as we talk about as well. But I guess you can't win them all. When you prefer Russo WCW to 1996 WCW, I mean, who are we to say? Opinions, we all have them, JP.
We do.
There's only one Matty Edwards on this planet Earth. He'll kill me now. I'm going off for drinks with him in Garrett tomorrow. So yeah, we'll look forward to me hearing it back. But I can say it on my podcast, so it's fine.
God bless him. I wouldn't change a hair in his beard for any of these opinions.
That's why we love him.
That's why we love him. He has these different opinions, and the heart wants as well. I don't know how he would have been if he'd had rewatched Over the Top, whether or not he would have liked that more. I'm suspecking yes.
That was less hot on. That might be my controversial take. It was all right.
Fucking kid.
Take, but we talk more on that too as well. But we also go through obviously Sly's career, the runners up, our fandom of Sly, where he fits in the pantheon of main eventers of action film as well. And all in all, it was just a nice little break from wrestling related content, wasn't it, JP? On the night of an AEW pay-per-view too as well. So it kind of we were the pre-show to the pre-show on Sunday night. But March is continuing on, and we will be right back into the thick of reviewing some wrestling next weekend, as we have the very first pick and mixtape, which we coined this week. The Wheeler's Choice. Matty himself did put the 8 different potential categories that we're going to pick a match from on this upcoming mixtape, and we all got 2, and we all got to decide what those 2 matches would be from the categories that we chose from the very fair wheel. I say fair, I got fucked. But yeah, some cracking choices, and we're going to be able to reveal who got what, JP, and who's picked what to the point, so everyone can get their homework in too. And yes, you all have to do it with us too, please. If we have to suffer, you do too.
We can indeed. I'll reveal them right now. So I'm going to start off with Matty in there. He got 2. He got Gentleman's 3. And he got Russo. So the 2 he's gone with is, and I think Gareth,
the most Matty categories ever, by the way, is what he got.
Oh yeah,
Gentleman's 3 and Russo. Couldn't be happier. But
although we're going to hear a lot about why this Gentleman's 3 is in fact a Gentleman's 5, and I'm not going to understand this at all. But he's gone with Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor at SummerSlam 2016, and I'm right in thinking that's the match that Balor got injured, wasn't it? But on that one as well.
Might not even be a 3. That might be a 2.75. Fits the category though.
I think I'm going to struggle for that one as well. And I'm glad he's done this one, because he's gone with another Russo one, and it fits in quite nicely of when we were talking about Spring Stampede 99 during Dealer's Choice, and you know, the fantasy booking, how we could have saved WCW. No one's done that before. Incredible. He's gone for Scott Steiner versus Goldberg at Fall Brawl 2000.
That feels like a cheat. The subject was Russo, but he's gone for Goldberg versus Steiner in an actually good match. I feel like that's the least Russo thing ever.
Yeah,
he'll say it's really Russo, though. It's the real Russo. This is his genius putting these 2 together.
The quiet brilliance of Vince Russo, who just loves the wrestling. That's all he loves, like that. Nothing, no Judy Bagwell on a pole, which I just thought that would be the runaway winner for that one on there. For Gareth, he had Cope, more of which later on, sadly, and Ring of Honor. And the 2 he's gone with he's gone for, in terms of our good friend Adam Copeland, he's gone for Edge versus Ric Flair from January 16th, 2006, a TLC match from Monday Night Raw. And for Ring of Honor, and this is really Ring of Honor, this is very much your Ring of Honor, this, Colt Cabana versus Toru Yano at New Japan Ring of Honor Global Wars 2017. Is that cheating? From Chicago on the 15th of October 2017 as well there. I had two, which
not
were
my ROH. Very clearly.
It could be really isn't. Could be fun. I'm intrigued.
If I'd have landed on ROH, it would have been something else. But I think Garrett's got an affinity for that era of Cabana, so I'm sure he'll explain his choice when we do the mixtape at the weekend.
He does. It's just having Edge and Seth Rollins and someone else appearing on there. It's like, bloody hell, there's going to be some hard going on some of these matches. I had death matches and territories. So I've just thought I'm just go big or go home for the death matches. I've gone Nick Gage versus Matt Tremont because, of course, and it's their second match from the Nick Gage Invitational 2, and that's from the 16th of September 2017 in there, where they're wrestling on cinder blocks, mate. The mat is made like it's got cinder blocks on it. I've never seen this before in my life. I just thought I want to go for something that's going to probably
don't think you're going to like it. I
no,
can just say that.
I don't think I will like it. Even when looking through the clip and I just thought, well, no, I've got to go. Just go big or go home on this. For territories, I like the idea of me a traveling champion. So I've gone for Jerry Lawler challenging for the AWA title from AWA champion Nick Bockwinkel. And this will probably be his first and only ever appearance on a Grapple Patreon show at any. I cannot see the contest whether he ever comes up ever again.
He's been slagged off on 5 to 1s.
That's it. I'm not sure I've ever watched a full match of his through. And it just feels like, right, well, we're going to tick that box this time. And that's for CWA, good old Continental. I know Matty wanted to see a bit of that. From the Mid-South Coliseum on New Year's Day, 1984 as well. So, yeah, that's going to be good fun. But Benno, mate, I'm going to let you do your picks on here. You've got a couple of belters here, unless you want me to read them out.
No, I think I pulled it out because I definitely got the short straw on the categories. Yet I feel like I'm being punished more by everybody else's picks there. Yeah. It's gonna be a fun pick. It's gonna be a great podcast, if not a great viewing experience. This one, but like I got the two I really didn't want. I had killed for ROH. I didn't even enjoyed having territories at that point. Russo, maybe I could have pulled something else. I'm not sure. I pulled out Joshi, which is just, yeah, that screams me, doesn't it? And Regal, which also screams me, both in negative ways. But I think people will be quietly happy with my two choices. So I'll go first with my Regal match. Obviously, we did the Regal mixtape once upon a time. And, you know, we went through as many of the good Regal matches as we could. And as a bit, I was actually going to go, because I looked at his cage match, what was his highest rated match? And it's a fucking TLC match with London and Kendrick in it, and fucking Dave Taylor's in it randomly. It's a fucking, as his tag team partner. No. It's during that year. I think it's 2007. I don't know. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to go for one that I think I actually genuinely quite like. I thought of an opponent I didn't mind Regal working with. And I went with the man called Sting, and I've chosen their matches. There's a couple of them to go between. But I haven't gone for I think it's Great American Bash match or whatever the pay-per-view match is. I've gone for this WCW Saturday Night match. I've gone full fucking hipster work rate guy here. I've gone Sting versus Lord Steven Regal from February 1994. That might be May 1994. It's 5/2/94. Whichever the two it figures out to be. I've got a link there. I'll be posting it on the Discord imminently if you don't mind actually doing the honors for that one in a bit. JP will throw it in the descriptions of the pod. I'll add it there myself as well. So I've gone with that. I actually think that might be an okay Regal match. I think that's not too bad. I've done my best.
That's all right.
Look, what can you choose with Regal? There isn't much there, if we're all honest. No. And for a Joshi match, I think I'm going to shock some of the Joshi fans in here. Like, I know my Joshi JP. I know my history. I don't know when or how or where I saw this match before, but I definitely saw it on telly. So I'm pretty sure like Bravo showed it, or maybe it was one of the German channels showed it. But I remember having a recording of this, like from FMW Fighting Creation 96. Yes, I'm fucking going there, folks. I have Combat Toyoda versus Megumi Kudo. And the two things I remember from it, one, that it involved barbed wire. So that was the first thing I Googled. And two, was that it involved the vertebraker / cop killer / whatever you call it. And obviously the originator of such things. And in Googling those terms, I found it. This was the match that maybe it was Euros. I can't imagine Eurosport showed it with the level of violence in this one as well. But there you go. Toyoda versus Kudo from 1996, 5th of May, 1996 for FMW Fighting Creation. So bit of extra bonus deathmatch for you thrown in there too. Come on, who's shot?
Eclectic to say that I did not see that Joshi
in my
match
wheelhouse. Barbed wire explosion deathmatch. That's why. Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right. So you've again, we've got a bit of we've got a fair bit of deathmatch heavy on this one, haven't we? Really, for this, mate. I don't know what to make of it. I'm completely. Am I going to love or hate this, or is it just going to be every emotion, including?
It'll be a good comparison piece.
And everything in between. Well, yeah, I can't see any world where there isn't just like a bit. It's just going to be all over the fucking shop on here. So, yeah, you will see these. I'm putting them at the minute on our spreadsheet, the run sheet on here as well, along with the links for all of these as well. And that was kind of like part of the deal. Were we going to be able to make sure that we could find these matches? And they're all pretty much accessible, even if I have to go to Russian YouTube for it. So. Good luck. Just use an incognito browser, I think, for that one, because I wouldn't be fucking trusting it in the slightest. Yeah, exactly. We are going to be waiting for a link for the Bill and Scott match as well.
Oh, okay. So, that's coming too.
Yeah,
I think my two are on YouTube. So
they are indeed. Yeah,
as well.
You've got them on there. I spent far too long trying to find the Matt Tremont and Nick Gage one as well. And someone asked, did I just Google deathmatch? And I thought, I just wanted to go with the deathmatch lads. That was it. And you'd be surprised to know it is longer than the Bockwinkel Jerry Lawler match.
Oh, Christ. Okay. I'll do my best to pause. I haven't got good memories of it either, but we'll find out together. This is the joy of such things. But yeah, that's going to be coming up on top of obviously the film club for Demolition Man, which is out already. Andy there saying in the chat, OK.ru is the site. Just use protection on it. He's absolutely right. Apparently Platt has got it on physical, and JP can sort it out. But it is a wild selection of matches. But yeah, that's going to be out this weekend. The pick and mixtape. Love the branding on that one. The Wheeler's Choice. I think Hamlet himself came up with that. And obviously, film club Demolition Man out now. We've also got Grapple Lads coming. We're going to be recording that again. Playing a bit of Time Cop. I'm going to be out with the lads tomorrow, so we're going to be getting that in the can for the end of the month when I might be on some little travels at that point. And on top of that, we've also got the week after this, we've got Carl Gax, King of the Mountain Pick, and we always know with Carl, it's going to be something fun. So yeah, I think the punishment might not end.
He's put up a video, and I still don't know exactly what it is. I cannot work out for love nor money what exactly it is that he wants us to watch. I'm completely bemused by it. And I won't lie, slightly fearing the worst, because I know what Carl's like and he'll make us watch some stuff. So, but it's always good fun. I think that's all the fun of it though, isn't it, mate? Is that we watch a load of shit and then we just look completely bemused in between. So always the way. Always makes the best podcasts, like I say. Why would we enjoy things? I've got to sit through Regal. I made sure Regal was only 10 minutes. That was a gift to me and you folks. But we'll see. Regal
have a good match.
Rollins, Finn Balor, Edge. Depends on how you're feeling about Nick Gage and Matt Tremont and Nick Bockwinkel. There is a potential here for some horrific matches.
And some great entertainment for the folks at home. So, yeah, look forward to that coming up this weekend. Patreon.com/grapple and YouTube.com/@grapple for all of that stuff. But, yeah, in the meantime, we should get into what we are here to talk about this week. JP, last week was a Fed pay-per-view review with me and Matty. This week it's an AEW pay-per-view review with Revolution coming from Sunday night. A show I actually didn't get to watch live this time, just with so much else going on. JP said that on the Discord. I had the biggest battle of my life trying to not get spoiled on this on Monday morning when I did the attempt to watch it. I've learned spoilers have moved on even since my day, JP. I used to just uninstall Twitter from my phone and I could avoid spoilers. Now I tried to go on the Google homepage on my work laptop and I got spoiled by the Tony Storm and Mariah May match that I was literally in the middle of. I mean, that's just cookies for you, or that's whether depending on the way you want to word it, also a conspiracy, and people are always watching. I even managed to stay off the Discord as much as I can. We've come up with some interesting spoilery type rules over there. Less for spoilers, more for categorization, I would say. Connor's going to be waving the hammer there for the spoilers over there, but managed to get it all in on Monday. I'm presuming you weren't fancying the midnight start, or was it the 4 a.m. Cope match that was putting you off from watching it live on Sunday night?
Well, there's no way I would have been able to stay awake with the 4 a.m. Cope match in there. I did start watching the pre-show because obviously we'd finished recording the Sly Film Club not long beforehand. So while I was doing the edits and stuff like that, I was just like, oh, okay, this is on. Vicky was asleep, so I'd put on some of the pre-show. Saw Paul Walter Hauser because, of course, it's just how they.
He was at least you what he's on that, mate. It was almost like they were doing a hold my beer with WWE. It's like, we're in LA, we'll get all of the celebrities. You know him with the face that you recognise from the thing. Well, he's here in the front row. Guess what? You're going to learn his name whether you want him or not. There was so many fucking B-listers. They were giving promo time as well. I know Queen of the Ring is obviously the big push on the show as well, including breaking kayfabe on air, which was a segment we'll obviously talk about later as well. I know Triple H does that now on the reg, so it's not that unusual for it to happen. But like, this really did feel like the I don't know, the Hollywood B-list version of what WWE did on Raw on Netflix. He just like, even Taz by the end of the pre-show seemed to be getting audibly frustrated. It's like, who's going to come out next and do a fucking choke slam? The knobhead from Workaholics. I quite like Workaholics. He's not a knobhead, but you know what I mean. It was just like, it was unreal, the amount of it on there. Paul Walter Hauser was fucking 5-star proper wrestler compared to a listener.
It was such a weird Little Bisto, or Young Gravy, as some people like to think of him as. He was he made
There's an early shout for the tour title.
Get it in there early doors, and he appeared to know nothing about wrestling, and it was just like, no, I'm just here. I've never been to a wrestling show in my life. I've met a guy backstage. He's really nice. His name's MJF, and he's just like, mate, you're saying the quiet bit out loud here. Really weird. Like, you know, Ken Jeong being at this isn't that much of a surprise. I've seen this, and he pulls his serious face, booing heels. Like Leslie Jones, formerly of SNL, appearing, and in the Ghostbusters remake that was hated because it dared to cast women. Like, that was like really, like, just seeing her, like, because I didn't recognise her at first. I thought, is that? No, it can't be. And just getting actively involved in a match, which was just kind of weird. The Queen of the Ring cast, who I've never heard a more desperate plea for go and see the film in the cinema. I'll give you an update on the box office at the end of the show, because it's had its release. But yeah, the director said, please go and see it. There's only a week left in the cinemas, and then it's going to be pulled out. And then most people got reason to go, well, I'll just wait for streaming then, because that's what it'll be on next week. And if the box of Dodgy is anything to go by, it'll be appearing on that fucking bad boy, along with AMA Supercross, whatever the fuck that is. That's all over it, and copies of the UFC pay-per-view. So, like, really, really weird. Two of the guys from Righteous Gemstones, which I don't know if you've ever watched, the Danny McBride comedy.
I know them though, yeah.
Like, one of them, the little brother, and the guy who I've only ever seen the first few episodes of the first series, so his character arc probably changes, but he's like a reformed Satanist, like and you know, just really and yeah, Big Boom AJ though is like, he's a fucking proper star compared to
them. Honestly, yeah. I'm glad they got signed. People were moaning about that out there. I'd sign them too. I just wouldn't have all these other scrubs on the show is the problem. I had no problem with that element of it. Like, having them on the pre-show is just, it's a gimme, isn't it? Whether they're you know, distinctly affecting business or not, they are bringing attention to AEW, and they are worth it, and it is still entertaining to me, even if, you know, yeah, maybe the jokes ran a little bit short with the Rizzler dressing up as Orange Cassidy and all the hilarity that issue with that. But I got plenty of time for Big Boom AJ. I got more time for him than the people he wrestled. Like, usually I complain about it. I complain about Mason Mansour being jobbed around by him and other celebrities, but it's fucking Mason Mansour, innit? Who gives a fuck? It's Johnny TV. He shouldn't be on TV. He shouldn't be there. Yeah. It's not the fucking Costco guys who don't deserve their contract. It's some of the people he were working with. So I had no issue with that. I thought that was absolutely fine pre-show fodder for me.
Exactly, and I think that's what, I mean, to talk about the pre-show, it does what a pre-show does. You don't really watch a pre-show expecting to have high-quality matches. Sometimes it's just there as filler for the people going into the arenas and stuff like that.
You should try a bit more to sell the pay-per-view. A good match wouldn't go amiss every now and then, to be fair. Like, maybe
to have one in between there would be quite nice. I don't think Hologram and Commander versus Blake Christian and Lee Johnson that's perfectly fine fodder, even if you know exactly what the result is going to be. And it's also a big sign EJ and Duca, who's been teaming with Lee Johnson in Ring of Honor. So I was like, well, can we kind of get the big fucking the big man on there? Like, he's someone I've been fucking banging the drum about for quite a while. Matt can't appear on here at all. But like, I think a lot of the pre-shows, they kind of just like wash over me. I mean, I'll say 4 matches is somewhat excessive on there, and they should just be using the countdown into cut with some of the matches as well, because that would be a simpler way to do it. But I don't think it was perfectly pleasant to have on in the background, because that's really as much as I watched the show on Sunday going into Monday was really the pre-show, because that was just on YouTube, and I went, I'll watch the show proper in the.
You got 4 hours in front
on Monday.
And it's there. That's totally forgivable. I think I watched it just because it was on live. It was like background viewing while I was doing some stuff to do with the shows we recorded. But yeah, outside of that, they're the most notable things. And obviously the Jericho non-match with Gravity that turned into a whole Mask versus Hair, I'm guessing, story that we're going to get with them. I mean, it spared us a Chris Jericho match. That would not have been the good match that we wanted on the pre-show. Or a good singles match, I think, is maybe what these pre-shows are missing a little bit. But, it spared us Jericho, and the angle, it worked. And it's always going to get heat an angle like that, isn't it? So, there we go. We'll do the match on Collision or whatever it ends up being.
It's just it just made me think that the whole thing with him and Bandido is they're really dragging this out a bit, aren't they? And it's just like, and the problem is you just don't give enough of a shit about Gravity, or his mum or sister, if we're going to throw them into this as well, to really kind of care. That's how I felt about it. And the amount of times a lucha ladder has his mask pulled off, and it appears to take away all of his fucking powers. They just roll around on the mat holding their face like they've got sulfuric acid poured onto it. It's just like, okay, this is just commonplace for this kind of stuff. But it's also at the same time, it's kind of inoffensive. And frankly, and I know, like, I think there was a couple of comments I did see afterwards once I'd seen the whole show, say to people going, Chris Jericho on a pre-show, that's, it's ruining him. And I was like, no, that's where he should be. He should be trying to sell you on watching a pay-per-view to people who aren't like us, and it doesn't have him on a pay-per-view because he doesn't deserve to be anywhere near a fucking pay-per-view at all. You're going to put him on a pre-show, fine, whatever. I can happily skip that or just ignore it while it's on in the background. When it's on a pay-per-view, it's like I'm forced to pay attention, which is the one thing I don't want to do with the Chris Jericho match in 2025.
There you go. And that, it says where he is in the world as well, that he's pre-show and he doesn't ever have the match. And that's probably where he belongs, rather than on these shows, and, especially on a stack card like this. So I'll take the small mercies where they come.
You do know we're getting a Paul Waterhauser match in AEW. They set it up with him and QT Marshall.
Pre-show, and I'm all right with it. I'll live with it. I'll live with it. You keep saying better use of them, though, isn't it? At least it's like making use of like a genuine Oscar winner, and rather than being buried away on some bumfuck indie somewhere. You just got to watch it now. Is the problem? Might have wished this into existence.
He's going to be in the fucking Fantastic Four movie. What the fuck is going on? Why is he doing this stuff? I don't understand. In between, it's like, I'm going to shoot something for Marvel, and then I'm going to do a Monster Factory show, which I just assume was trainees. Like, that's just mental.
Bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But he's your favourite, and he will continue to pollute the midweek news dump week on week if I know him. But that was the pre-show. That's about all it is to say about it. And the main show itself, it ended badly. We're gonna get to that. Luckily, it's at the very tail end of the show, but I think it started really well. I think overall, that most of the conversation has been about this being an all-time or a great AEW pay-per-view until a certain point in time. And yeah, if we jump right into it, I think it started that way with Hangman Page and MJF kicking things off. Felt like an interesting choice to open when they came out. That's the last thing I saw on Sunday night, and then I was like, you know what, that actually makes sense considering there's an Ospreay match, there's an Okada match, if that still counts, there's a Kenny match, there's a Swerve match, fucking a lot of matches on this show. And yeah, I think Hangman Page is, I think somebody said in the chat, someone up with the same catchphrase as me: if he's not first, he's last, and if he's not last, he's first. And yeah, they went out there and had a fucking fantastic match. It's been a very weird feud in that it's very much been a distraction feud, or like a sidestep of a feud away from whatever was going on with Jeff Jarrett and MJF, which has kind of made it a little bit weird in structure. I think there's somebody, again, I think it might have been Paul, somebody else on the Discord did point out, you know, maybe the slight negative of this card is like every single big important match was a big grudge match, and that probably hurt the main event because not everything can be a blood feud. But this was one I like the way they set it up as far as like the escalation goes, and the fact that it got more and more personal week on week on week, even into, you know, the Dopey Fire stuff on Dynamite last week that I don't think either of us were particularly high on, but it escalated well to the point this felt earned, and it also felt a bit one and done. I mean, dependent on what we get on Dynamite this week and the follow up, and anyone listening on Thursday morning could obviously know different. But yeah, MJF. Did we even predict that on the weekend show? Losing clean in the middle after what felt like a very main event style match between two big hitters in AEW. But yeah, it felt like a definitive full stop on this feud, unless MJF drags it out further.
I was really surprised by that, because I think the way that we normally assume that these things are, you know, when you predict any AEW feud between two people who are certainly, if they're not in the upper mid card, but you know, certainly looking around the main event level, is they just tend to do trilogies. Like, that's just what they do. They've always kind of done that throughout most things, and it makes sense. I don't have a problem with it. And if you've got, and particularly if you've got a load of really good workers and you're doing pay-per-views pretty much every month, I get the reasoning for that. I don't have an issue with that per se. I was just more surprised that it did feel so definitive and it felt clean. I think the thing about it is I just thought this was like, I thought this was just really good, really fun. But it was also, you know, with the benefit of all the other stuff that was to come, it wasn't so spectacular, but it also had weird brutality in its own way. I mean, the two spots that immediately come to mind for me were the tombstone on the chair, which you would expect to break and didn't. That's just a nut spot. And then the other one was the bump that MJF took off the Angel's wings.
Oh my God.
Towards the end. Oh,
I've seen MJF I've seen like Hangman get grief for that. That's on MJF. Like, anybody watching that who's wrestled, anyone's out there, let us know. Like, I feel like it was the way he landed was the problem. I don't think Hangman did anything wrong there to make that happen. If anything, it helped the spot, to be honest. It looked like a mean Angel's wing. Yeah. So maybe it's the angle of it and the way like Hangman turned on it, and it added to the meanness of the match. Because you've nailed something there. Like, that's the problem. Like, if it's a problem with such a stacked, brilliant card, you know, I love a lot of this card. Every match, there's like 6 matches that could arguably have had colour, 6 matches that would have justified ridiculous levels of violence. When you're the opener, you want to go out there and do it in a way that doesn't kill the rest of the card, and they did it that way by maybe hitting each other a little bit harder, landing a bit harder on stuff, and maybe not overdoing it and spamming the finishes as you often get at the close of these kind of big matches. They just went out there and had a hard hitting, again, definitive match, putting Hangman over, which I always love to see. Don't get enough of that on AEW. Doesn't win enough of these types of matches.
And that's always a pleasant surprise, because it then makes you think, oh, we're going to get Hangman around the top of the card again, and that's a good sign. And I also think as well, I don't think MJF lost anything because of the way they put the finish. The fact that it was such a brutal bump off there. And I think you're right. He like had his head like sort of tucked down, and that just meant he took the full brunt of it. And I thought he just assumed he'd broken his nose. But then when he gets hit with the buckshot lariat afterwards, you're just like,
that was stiff.
Yeah, that should
that was stiff. That was all Hangman.
that should be the end. Like, that should be after that bump, and that should basically knock anyone out. And I don't think like he loses anything in particular by doing it. I know he's advertised for doing a promo on Dynamite. So
MJF.
Is there going to be MJF? There's going to be a new direction there. There's still that part of me, because there was just all this Wardlow talk. So I was kind of expecting Wardlow to possibly come out and reunite with him. Whether or not that's going to be a thing that happens at Dynamite, and they decide that that's the kind of wrinkle they're going to add to the mix, or decide that he needs that kind of a figure in there, I wouldn't be that surprised by. But yeah, I thought this was like a really good fun opener. I mean, you might be slightly higher on me if I was giving it a rating. I'd give it 4 stars, but I think that's what, in many ways, that kind of opener, like it should be, and sets the tone.
Yeah, and that goes to the embarrassment of it just got an AEW. Like, until AEW existed, how many pay-per-view openers were over 4 stars? You could do a mixtape on pay-per-view openers pre-AEW if you just do WWE. And, you know, yeah, we can come up with obvious ones like Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle and stuff like that. But, like, yeah, fantastic for the pay-per-view opener. And felt a little bit disciplined, which is not often what you can say about MJF and his matches. And they asked a question in the chat, though. I've got to ask you, JP, because it was something that stood out for me as well. Hangman's new haircut. What do we make of it? Is it a bob that he had? I'm going to be aging myself again based on the intro chat to this podcast. I don't know what you call that. Like, it was like it was a bit of a mum haircut, wasn't it? Really, it was like it wasn't long, it wasn't short, it was somewhere in the middle. I wasn't a fan myself. I don't know. I did hate MJF doing the whole fucking coming out to Hangman's old song thing, because I don't even think that was a good bit this time. I don't think it was something anyone was expecting. It just made me genuine. I guess it worked. It made me genuinely believe Hangman was coming out to the theme, and it was just a bit of a weird thing for MJF to do. I'm not sure it actually translated to heat. Maybe minor annoyance. Maybe that's the real heat in 2025. So maybe he's got on me. But yeah, if he'd brought the music back, he'd have been a babyface to me, especially Hangman. But changing the hair, don't know. Hurt him a bit for me. Wasn't a great look.
It's like a slightly overlong bob with a perm, and perms have weirdly become fashionable. Now, I always assumed the only people who had perms were like my mum. Maybe it's me. My mum, her sisters, and my nan. And now you get to the point where Harry, who's 8, he has asked the question of, can I have a perm? And I just assumed this was a piss take, but he really wasn't. He was being quite serious. One of his mates has had a perm, who he plays football with. I'm just like, sorry, like, what have I missed something in all of this, where this is just the thing that kids are doing, is they're having fucking perms? I'm completely bamboozled by it on here. The problem was, it's either you go full board and you cut it, and dare I say, it's a bit of a short back and sides as well, or you just leave it as it is and grow it long. Why? Because you're a professional wrestler, mate, and long hair appears to be part of the deal. Yeah.
And I can't talk. If I took this hat off, mate, my hair is ridiculous right now. My beard looks fucking homeless.
Need to get that cut before you go away.
I'm in Brian Blessed territory here once again here. I'm just getting ready before I go away. I think I'm cheap, JP. I want to get 1 haircut before I go away, not 2.
Good.
So I'm holding off until the day before I go, but it might actually be a tomorrow job now before the Grapple Lads North meet up. But yeah, Don Bellier, like a Liverpool player in the 80s with that haircut. Perfect, nailed it. It was cool once, and it was cool when Easy did it as well. But yeah, there we go. Simon saying his barber, I've seen a rise in kids asking for perms as well. Tom Grennan started the trend at Ewan says, there we go. That's why we've got a chat. People younger like Simon are more in touch with the youth than we are and know what's going on. There we go. Should I shave my head before I go? Maybe I should. It'll be hot.
I did that moment when I went travelling. Do it.
We'll see. I'll go short. Maybe not that short. Number 2, I think, JP. That's my limit. Got light coloured hair. You can only go too short. But there we go. Anyway, that's it. That's Hairgate. It's one of them. That was the last thing I was going to say. And I think that happens though, doesn't it? When you get a bad haircut and people go, fucking hell, that's a bad. You can't. Once it's done, what can you do? Hangman's such a nice bloke. It's probably not what he asked for. Or maybe he asked for a perm. It was just a longer perm than that looked a bit better than that. Once it's done, it can't be undone, can it? He's just got to let it go or else. I agree with you, JP, and the chat there.
He's gone to a Turkish barbers, isn't he? And it's the case where,
like you told me back in the day,
this is how I want you to do it like this, and it's just like, and basically what they do is they do whatever they want to do, and you're just going to stick with it. But it's slightly
sometimes it'll be the best haircut you ever had. Sometimes it'll be the worst, and that is the gamble you take.
Shit or bust, mate.
You never know. Well, on that note, yeah, great opener for me. I think I'd match it in 4 stars, but really enjoyable opener. Exactly what an opener should be for me. And yeah, it was the conclusion just of a great arc for MJF, who has been mostly awful for like 18 months, if not longer. 2 years, is it, at this point? And yeah, this was a feud he needed. And interesting to see what we get coming out of it, whether it continues on or he does something fresh. But yeah, always good to see Hangman picking up a W. From there, we went second up. We had Mercedes Moné and Momo Watanabe up second. Yeah, had a tough act to follow. I would say this one, JP, and I think probably the right spot for it. With Momo being, what she is in AEW, which is like guest challenger of the month, not the person you necessarily expecting is going to take the belt off of Mercedes, but somebody you can go out there and guarantee a pretty good match. I think this was on the low end of good match that maybe I expected with these two in there, but fine for what it was. But I don't think anybody really bought Momo as a challenger, which is probably what was going against it, I would say.
That was the main problem, was just the inevitability of who was going to win. And the circumstance, because we've seen this when it was like, was it Mika Yamazaki? I think something like that. Fucking, is it that Wonder Girl, the one who dresses
need
up
matches
like
this. Not every match should be like the barn burner, title challenge. Like you do need like to pad a resume of being a long term champion. Like that's fine.
I think the main thing is as long as it doesn't shit the bed. And dare I say it, this is one of the things with Mercedes Moné, this quiet run of good in-ring performances that we've seen, of like her feeling like she's kind of finally bedded in. And I thought as the match went on, because it was quite long, like for a second match, it was like 18 minutes. As the match went on, I thought it got slightly better as the crowd kind of warmed to Momo a little bit and got a little bit more into it. But like, and they still don't know really who she is, but she had once the dynamics of just she's the powerhouse, and therefore we weren't going to get that god awful Mercedes Moné finish. And so we got the smart finisher that she should be finishing matches with the bank statement.
Yeah,
just fucking stick with that.
Stick to it.
Stick to that. That's all. Just stick to that, and then if they don't want to tap, they can just pass out. It's easy. But there was a couple of, I thought, really good spots in this. Like I thought there was the one where Momo did the knees off the second rope to the apron on Mercedes Moné, and looked like she kind of killed her. And then she did an Uranagi off the second as well. And I thought that was the stuff I thought that kind of worked for me. And in the main, they kind of gelled well for what it is. I mean, again, rating wise, I'd probably be a little bit generous. I'd say 3.5. Like I can understand if people went 3.25.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It didn't kill the crowd, and it was a decent enough match that didn't knacker out the crowd, which is more important. Did it need this length of time though? No, I don't think it needed to be really much more than say 10 minutes. But then that's a kind of slight issues with some of the card where you think how they could have shaved time off stuff.
There's a big contender for that coming up. But yeah, for me, serviceable second match on the card, 3.25, and not much notable about it really, but more interesting what happens next with Mercedes. Do we move her into the Tony Storm verse? Do those two parts come together at all in? Maybe at some point. Obviously, there are challenges set up as well, but yeah, fine. Gets it on the card and no problem with it from me. But yeah, that takes us into another part of my favorite. It's all, to be honest, until the main event, all bangers from me, apart from the tag match. Ricochet and Swerve Strickland was the first of such bangers for me. One that I've massively enjoyed the build on, as we talked about on Weekend Show. I think they did a fantastic job of just maybe subtly and then maybe beating you over the head with the whole Prince Nana, Jimmy Rave stuff. Like there was only one time I felt like on commentary where they actually talked about it, and actually I think Excalibur used the name Jimmy Rave once and explained the whole lore behind the I was going to say gown then. What's the word I'm looking for? Robe. There we go. Robe's a better word. Either or. I wanted one like that when I was wrestling. I wanted to be Timu Jimmy Rave before I knew Timu was such a thing. But that's basically what Ricochet is going for in this story, and it's built, you know, the Swerve and Prince Nana strife, that Nana's annoyed that Swerve's not focusing on the right things. He's taking everything as a blood feud and everything personal, which is true to life with, you know, with the way Swerve's feuds tend to go. You know, that's a Swerve idea that he's put in Prince Nana's head to say that line to him, because he sees that. He's always thinking 3-dimensional, isn't he, Swerve? And that added an extra dynamic for it, which I think really enhanced my enjoyment of the match for me. Maybe some of it on reflection now doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because coming out of the end of it, and no, Nana wasn't actually ever going to turn on Swerve. So why did he leave, and why did he? It was a bit of a convoluted way for him to come back and get the road back, maybe. But all of those little spots where any moment where Prince Nana was like on his knees behind Swerve, or Swerve was bumping into him, or Ricochet did the dive out, you know, onto Nana when Swerve threw him in a way that made it look like it was Swerve's fault. It was like the work within a work. They really leaned on people's expectations that Nana was turning in and joining Ricochet. And I actually still don't rule it out. I think the feud's done. But you could get one more out of it if it happened on Dynamite. It might be a bit nonsensical now, but say they found another way to get Nana on Ricochet's side, maybe they could go back there. But yeah, you know, if this is it as far as this feud goes, it's been a really well told story, and it gave you that, like I say, that strife and that worry in both a kayfabe and a non-kayfabe way that Nana was going to turn. Gave you a high, impressive offense from the two, like the run and kick Ricochet did on the outside, run on the guardrail, incredible. Swerve felt a little bit more disciplined in his offense. There wasn't so many forward rolls into daft looking indie moves in here. He felt like a solid main event act during this match, and they went out there and told a story, and told a great story, and had a lovely emotional end with Swerve on his knees, handing the road back to Nana. For giving it away, I thought it was a brilliant bit of business. And again, didn't go too far. I wouldn't go maybe higher than like a 4.25 on it. But again, the third match on the card, exactly what it needed to be. And it was just tells you the wealth of riches AEW have got, that this is on third. And it's been such a well-built, you know, main character story that AEW had on the show.
I think there is a thing where when we started to go, like when Ricochet started to basically go good, at that point, it feels like a lot of the TV started to pick up, and it started to feel like that was part of the, okay, there's this really interesting mid-card feud, and one of the guys I just expected to hate. And I think when watching this, like a lot of all the comments you just said there, I completely agree with. I agree with the rating 4.25, because again, like this sort of represented, I think, AEW kind of at its best. Like the AEW that I really like is one where there's a blend of very modern, spectacular professional wrestling. So you're going to get the moves with a Z, but it's delivered in a way by people who are just so fucking good at it that you just think, yeah, I love this stuff. And you're not going to see that on WWE. You're just not going to see matches like this at all. Plus, the characters themselves, there is a degree of complexity to them. Don't get me wrong, it's wrestling, so they're rather broad strokes, but they are engaging. So you're engaged with the characters, you're engaged with the storyline. I just thought, like you say, on the video package, it's like, you've got Ring of Honor footage, just have the Jimmy Rave, just fucking explain it in the promo package.
It might just be, I've heard Tom Martin say this, it might just be how depressing the real Jimmy Rave story is, though, you know, with him losing his limbs and the really, really bad way. Maybe his family don't want, you know, it to be too on the nose, you know. It's maybe better to allude to than to say out loud. Maybe it feels like it's something like that, I think, because it is awful.
If that is the case, and it's the family, then fair enough, because they're the people who can put the kibosh on this. However, you would imagine they would treat it with the respect and the reverence that it deserves, which I'd be like completely fine with. But this is like, in the main, I absolutely loved like watching this. I just had so much fun in it. Even if the Leslie Jones stuff was just absolutely mad, how she was, because if you were sat beside her, you would be tempted to go, can you just sit down and shut the fuck up? Because
Nigel thought it was Swerve's mum, didn't he? Like he said at one point. Isn't watching his TV, I guess. We'll just leave that there. But yeah, that was a bit odd. But proper into it. Understandably, it's been a great feud.
And this feud has been such a success because not only has it, like, as the thing we've spoken about, it's taken Ricochet to this strong strong upper mid card, someone who could potentially headline a pay-per-view at some point, a feud you can go back to, rather like Hangman, later on, intermittently. There's always going to be that kind of rivalry between them, and that's great. Yeah. And Swerve just cementing him as the babyface. And I love the teases with Nana. I never thought Nana should tease because it's just the thing for me. It's like, no, it doesn't really make sense. And this crowd loved Swerve. And you think, well, yeah, you should love Swerve. Like, he's fucking great. He's just tremendous in all of the time that he is, his time in AEW. He's a main event act.
It's about time that
he gets at the very end. Yeah.
As is the story here, you know, both in kayfabe and non-kayfabe, just fucking shoot him back to the top. Let's go. Let's fix this company and make him the champion again. But it's in every way he carries himself. And like, yeah, I was saying that on the weekend show, you know, for me that like, you know, Ricochet's a made man as an upper mid carder, but I think you've hit a point that I didn't make there, which is that, yeah, you can come back to this. And isn't that interesting that Swerve is creating like this little stable of different feuds he's got that you can always go back and visit, you know, Hangman being the other, you know, very famous one. But like, you know, his feuds don't end as much as they can always escalate. They don't end with a handshake and a hug, do they? They end in him still hating the other person. Lashley, that's another match we can go back to with Swerve as well. That fucking... He's got a brain on him, that bloke. He knows what he's doing. And obviously, you know, from being a long-term RBR listener, I know his cousin Will has had a good brain on him too for this stuff, and they're always thinking this stuff through. Love it. And yeah, I love the close as well. Like I say, the Nana dance getting a big pop as well. Yeah. Was well done too. So yeah, belt him up at Dynasty. I agree with Simon in the chat. But more on that later when we get there. But brilliant stuff. Very much enjoyed that. And yeah, can't believe I'm saying that about Ricochet in 2025. But here we are. I was lying, JP, when it was back-to-back. Said it was back-to-back bangers from this because I forgot about this match. Like I forgot about it 2 minutes after it happened, after I watched it, which was Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King in our Continental title match, which for me felt only notable for the fact that I think we are going to the rumoured unification between the Continental and the International belt. And yeah, like you've said before, good luck podcasters putting that one together into Continental. It's probably where we're all going to continue to land. But yeah, it was a match, JP. I'm told it lasted 12 minutes. Most of which, to be fair, was Brody King lighting up Okada with those chops, and he looked like he felt it, and then kind of just felt like out of nowhere, Okada got the win. And that was it. It was a match. And I think, again, maybe similar to the Mercedes one, maybe I should be more charitable. Seemed to exist to, one, give Brody a spot on the card, and two, just remind you that Okada's still got the belt if we are building to something more sustainable with him. But couldn't help but note, it did feel like the commentary was outright pointing out, yeah, he doesn't look interested, Okada, does he? But I promise you he is. I promise you he still cares. It's kind of like the subtext is, I promise you he's not Nakamura. I promise you he's still Okada. It's still good. It's still good. Was it Excalibur at one point who made the analogy that it was like Messi joining the MLS, and it was like he's making that argument as if to say, yeah, that's a foreign star coming to the US League, isn't that great? Not realizing how actually dead on in a lot of ways that analogy is, because it's like Messi going to the MLS, where it's like, yeah, he's not taking it seriously anymore because he's not in the proper leagues in his mind. Whether that's right or wrong, and I think it's wrong because Okada probably should be taking this a lot more seriously. But I feel like that analogy was scarily close to the truth. But maybe Okada can pull it out for the Kenny Omega match.
Dare I say it feels closer if it feels closer if Messi had joined the Saudi Pro League. Like that's what it feels like, kind of almost. Because at least for the MLS, he does documentaries and stuff for Apple TV because he's got points in the game, like Dwayne. So it's like he's in a vested interest to try and make it work, and he can still take the piss on the pitch because, let's face it, it's the MLS. But this is a match that if you didn't have this and you just had a series of people in the crowd of the roster just watching the match, like they had with Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata, and you just had a shot of Okada just watching the match in a box, and then a couple of other people, that would have been it. That's the only, and you would have had that during the Kenny match. That would have been better than I think having this. It appeared to exist just to remind you he has this title and it is going to play into things, and he is going to be defending it. That was really it. Yeah, I've got no massive notes on it. I like Brody King. I think there is a really good upside for him, but there's no there was no chance he's winning this. Really, Brody King should be chasing after the TNT title, or they go with the Hounds of Hell, giving a serious tag push as well.
He's got to win eventually is the problem. It feels like he's a favorite right now, and sometimes you're a Tony Khan favorite where you got to push, and sometimes you're a Tony Khan favorite where it's like charity and you get these matches that you just never win. And I know there's got to be guys who've got to lose, and I've got no, I made the same point as you. I felt like he was on the show just to remind you that he exists, and he's got to beat someone, and someone's got to lose. But I think there's more there with Brody, just because especially the type of wrestler is, big bruiser type. They're still relatively rare in wrestling. You want to protect that a bit more than they do with him. So yeah, I'd like to see more of him on the shows, but in maybe a more positive way. But yeah, that was that. The crowd were behind him too. To be fair, it's got to be said with Brody. So something's working there. Something which didn't work was the follow-up match. What was I on about with banger after banger? Fucking Hurt Syndicate here versus, we've been building this, haven't they, JP? We've been building to a big match with Brian Cage and Lance Archer. Nope. We're waiting for that one because we're getting the Outrunners instead. And we all agree, the main event that we're all going to agree on, failed experiment. I understand why you'd try, because I might too. Look, if I run a wrestling company and two people get over like the Outrunners did, even as a jokey act, I think you've got to go, well, the crowd like these, I'm going to use them more. That's one thing. The crowd like them, I've got to use them more. Doesn't also equal, I've got to put them in a pay-per-view match, and then put them in a pay-per-view match where it wasn't quite 50-50, but they go 60-40 with the two of what feel like the most badass wrestlers on earth, and definitely Bobby Lashley, and I guess these days Shelton Benjamin. Can't believe I'm saying that. But yeah, it was a completely bad fit, and they were completely the wrong act for the role. And on top of it, they shit the bed too. They both looked like they had two left feet out there. They looked indie, they looked unpolished, and they looked like they didn't belong in the ring in a shoot way rather than a kayfabe way. This should have ended in half the time, and this is about as much time as it deserves to talk about, really, because I think everyone would agree. It was 8 minutes, which was 7 minutes too long.
Oh, God, this just should have been a squash. And the Outrunners, when we talk pre-show, you put them on the pre-show.
Yeah. Team them with fucking AJ. Them. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, just put them. Yeah, exactly. Put them with Big Boom AJ. Absolutely fine. No issue at all. You can even make that a 10-man tag if you're insisting on getting loads of people on it. That would be fine. That shtick would work as people are going into the arena and they're wanting to get a bit enthused. That's the limit. If there was a secondary tag belt, and I'm not saying for a second they should do that, there would have been a point in time I would have probably said that would be a really good idea. You haven't got enough tag teams and it's another title belt. But that's the level it would be. If you were having a WCW US tag team title division, they are perfect for that kind of stuff because you just put them on TV doing defending that on say Collision. This being on here, it was just like I was watching this, I was like, why is this going on for so long? Her Syndicate should be just squashing them before they're getting onto the really big boy tag teams. And instead, it was like 8 minutes 40. And so it wasn't a good enough match to kind of justify the time. And it's not a long amount of time, 9 minutes in the scheme of things, but it was way too long for this. Yeah. 2 minutes squash. And then you say afterwards, well, still, why is this on the pay-per-view? You just take it off it, you do it on TV.
That's it. There you go. That's all the time that deserves. I think everyone agrees, and it shouldn't have. It's just the AEW tag division, isn't it? There aren't that many contenders, and I guess they wanted to save the Callis family team for the day, but that kind of speaks volumes about your tag division, doesn't it? Not good stuff. Here's where the show has started to have bangers after bangers after bangers, JP. This is where we picked up, as we had what I actually agree, arguably, could have been your main event. You're going to have a Hollywood ending match. Feel like it should end the show that takes place near Hollywood in LA. Well, we'll get there with what does end things. But for the spot it had on the card, this was absolutely brilliant, which was obviously Timeless Tony Storm and Mariah May in what was ostensibly a Falls Count anyway match, but Hollywood ending was a good little gimmick with the legitimate Hollywood ending at the end of this as well. I thought this was fantastic. I think this feud has been hot and cold for me. It felt like they had so many ideas and then they ran out of ideas at one point, or maybe they didn't account for the amount of time they'd have to keep Tony off TV, or account for the distance in time that it was going to take to get to the Aussie show and then to here and to hit all the points they wanted to hit in this feud. It did kind of, I agree with all the takes that it made Mariah May's title run a bit of a lame duck, all in all. But I think the work in this was fantastic, and I think I felt that way about the Wembley match. I enjoyed what they did in Australia. I think when the light has been on and when it's mattered, they've delivered, and I think that's true of some of the segments and promos as well. When it's mattered, even if it's not necessarily always to our taste, I feel like they've delivered these two, and this was just an absolute bloody spectacle, like the match that deserved to have blood on this show, which again is hard to do when you've got so many grudge matches on one show, but like it earned the blood. It had the shock value of having the blood. Even JR couldn't kill it on commentary. We wheeled him out and I was like, what the fuck's he doing here? Obviously tie into Queen of the Ring and his weird producer credit that he's got on that. I guess he just sat there in his cowboy hat and raised it every now and then. But either way, thought he was actually fine on commentary on this, and I thought the two of them bled buckets, beat the shit out of each other. It had a wonderful finish that we can get into. It had creative spots. It had everything. And it did have me coming out of it going, God, that could have main evented. And I think that could have been the women, the mystery women's match that always seems to elude Tony Khan, that might one day headline an AEW pay-per-view. This kind of felt like what could have been the one, because I thought it was brilliant from start to finish.
I completely echo all of those. Dare I say it, I would go as far as it's certainly my favourite match of the night. Don't get me wrong, there was work in other matches that you would say could be better, and I'm not a deathmatch aficionado. The pick a mixtape might be the thing that changes it around. But
not the one you picked with.
No, it isn't, is it?
This is a better deathmatch than that.
Yeah, and 12 minutes. No fucking around. And I think that's because it's just the whole idea is these two fucking hate each other. So what do? It starts off hot. Mariah May runs up the aisle, attacks Toni Storm, and they just get going from there.
I love that.
And it was the levels of blood from Toni Storm in particular. It's just like, Jesus Christ. This was nuts. I'm saying it's like Muto scale stuff, but it's not a million miles away. And it was earned. It was all earned. It should have been like that, because that's what this feud has been. It's been a blood feud. And like you say, if they had main evented with this, think of how people might well have felt about this show if it had got to that point. Even if it had gone as long as this, and 12 minutes, no one would have felt shortchanged.
They'd be tempted to give it more time, wouldn't they, if it was the main? Could that subtract? Yeah. I don't know. An extra 5 minutes wouldn't have hurt, though. It didn't feel short. I didn't feel that was only 13 minutes. I thought it felt longer.
It felt like an epic as well. Like, it really did. And like the broken champagne bottle for them to recreate Kickboxer, of them tying the tape around their fist and then sticking it in there.
But it was all right. It was fine.
I mean, everything about this feud is hokey. If we're going to break it down for like what it is, it's like the whole thing is hokey.
Fair.
But it also at the same time is hokey and simultaneously very like kind of nasty, serious. It's this weird mix that has won me over as time has gone on for this. Now, the real test of all of this is, where do they go next? Because I think actually on the card, what seemed to be being hinted at, and I didn't mention this earlier on with Mercedes Moné, is the fact that Billy Starks has been in the crowd, which feels like we're going to be getting to Athena coming in reasonably soon.
I wish it was Athena instead of Billy Starks in the crowd.
Oh yeah, I think Billy Starks is just merely a vehicle to get to Athena, and to do that all in Texas. The idea being that Athena's from Texas. If you're going to take the belt off her and you're going to do this, and then you move Mercedes Moné into the women's division proper. Although, what then do you do with Toni Storm? Do you then go to, say, Jamie Hayter? Would that make sense? She never lost the belt, but then she's not felt like she's been really on it since she's come back and stuff like that as well. But all the same, this was a match which earned all of the bloody spots, and they nailed all the bloody spots. They absolutely fucking nailed it, and it was epic, but also at the same time not over long. It's like such a hard thing to pull off.
It is, and to be honest, I would say I'm not necessarily worried about what's next. I think I'm not worried about Toni Storm now. I think like there was a point where this character, and I think this feud, again, it's been imperfect, but I think this feud and just this arc of a character has brought out parts of it. Like, she can do what was, and is still, a bit of a comedy. It's kind of comedy undercard. I think that was our problem with it early on. But she's shown that there's different layers you can do with that, and there's different shades of it you can do. And she can now inhabit that character and be angry. She can inhabit that character and sell and emote more than I think she ever did in the past. Like, that was always the secret with Toni Storm. She was a great wrestler in theory, but she was the 3.25 star second match on a progress card like wrestler for most of her career. Even when she got to bigger places, she never really stepped up. And I do feel like this character has brought something out of her, and it's now not just a daft thing that she does as a comedy undercard thing. It's something that she's just added a bit of depth to, and added a bit of color to, and added different facets to that can plug into. Yes, this feud was a bit fantastical, including the way they ended it. I don't want to get that lost. I want to talk about that in a minute. But I think it showed she can do a proper feud and still be this character. I actually believe she can pull it off now, and I think she is someone who was better off in this character, as daft as it is in a lot of elements, than she was just being pro wrestler Toni Storm. That's why we were also disappointed when they got us all, when she came back on that random rampage and was back in old school Aussie Toni Storm biker chick character, whatever that was. We were disappointed because this has actually gotten her over, and she's recognizable now as an act. I think it's all a big win, and I think, yeah, for me, I don't even want to necessarily look forward too much. I think we should maybe appreciate the body of work they've done here, especially in this match. And I think, like you said before, the open, like that mirror image of what I really loved about the way they finished the story here. Like the open of Mariah sprinting out on the aisle to get Toni because they hate each other that much and they want to fight, through this bloody match with all the layers it adds, right back to, instead of running up the ramp, Mariah is crawling up the ramp to get away from Toni, which sets up perfectly for them to do that brilliant pile driver spot that we had in the image before, through the table, which was brilliant. And then, I'm not always a big fan of cinema and wrestling, but again, it's the Toni Storm character, and I think you can get away with it. That gorgeous overhead shot that I don't think we can use in the YouTube images, because YouTube will shut us down because of the blood, of Toni Storm laying on top of Mariah May, and like, you're hamming it up and doing the whole, like, two lovers in bed, and the end comes up on the screen, and it was a lot. But like you said before, it's a lot because that's what this character is, and that's what this feud necessarily has been as well. It was the perfect ending. I think, yeah, the grief that maybe we've given some elements of this feud, and RJ City particularly, I noticed him taking his victory lap on Twitter over the very end of this one, and he probably should. I think they did nail it where it mattered. I thought it was beautiful from start to finish.
They stuck the ending, and this is going to be a common theme here. When you get the ending right, people remember good stuff, because the match in Brisbane was a match in Brisbane. Yeah. But it was fine because it served a plot device of Toni getting the title back to then lead to this match as well. And I have to say, when Mariah May came in, I just thought there is a very clear ceiling on how far she could go. And she surpassed that already, even if she doesn't really do anything else within AEW. She has done as well as anybody would have superseded what anybody would have expected. And as a result, I think this has been kind of great, and I didn't like the Toni Storm character for the longest time, but I think when they added that wrinkle of when she went back was this other character, and then this version that's come back has been a bit more grounded in a very slight way, it's kind of worked. And the sit down interview they did on Dynamite was the thing. I was like, actually, you've done that really, really well. They deserve all the flowers they get.
Sure.
For this.
I think the biggest compliment I can give Mariah May is, like, I don't think of her as the same person. I don't, like, I see her, she's just an AEW wrestler. I don't think of her as like when she was young and she was on the British Indies and, knocking about in our types of circles. Like, it doesn't feel like she's the same human. I don't even connect those two bits together anymore. So yeah, there have been criticisms, rightful ones, I think, of a title run and some of the stuff over the last few months, but thought this was golden. On from there, the matches keep coming fast and keep coming with good stuff. With another one, which I think similar to MJF and Hangman, Takeshita and Omega had a similar challenge on again in a show full of blood feud, feud ender. Everyone's gonna kill each other matches. How can we go out there and do something a little bit different? And I think like the opener, I think they managed to go out there and do something a little bit different. I think it was maybe on the, I think I said this on Discord, like the lower end of what Takeshita and Omega could have done. But maybe that was the card, it was the placement, and it was the workers being mature enough to know, there's a limit on what we can do, on this point in the spot. Or maybe it's more, Omega having the brain he has on him and understanding there was a very specific story to be told here with Takeshita. Obviously with Kenny coming back from injury, he loves to play on the whole midsection stuff, and Don Callis and commentary loves to remind you of all the midsection stuff. But he told a very deliberate story here that wasn't necessarily going out there all guns blazing to have a 5-star plus match, but it was still a fantastic 30 minutes body of work, long form story told, and these two have incredible chemistry as it goes as well. And there's obviously a lot of similarities between the two, and Takeshita is always very obviously going to be Kenny Omega's boy in AEW, as well as weirdly El Generico's boy. I hadn't realized that that was apparently Takeshita's hero in wrestling, and it was said in commentary, and I think I heard it a couple of weeks ago, and obviously it was in the video package as well. Like you notice a lot of his offense, like, oh yeah, he does do the hell of a kick. Oh yeah, he does do a few old school Generico dives.
Blue Thunder Bomb.
Yeah, makes sense. Blue Thunder Bomb. There you go. And he hits that way better. I mean, Generico hit that unbelievable, and Sami Zayn does still to this day. But I think Takeshita's is a step up on that. But yeah, I think they ended a really good match, and it was a match that the crowd very much went along with by its end too.
Yeah, I think it's funny with this. I think my immediate thoughts afterwards was that could have been better. But that's when I thought about it just that little bit more, just gave it a bit more time to process. I was like, well, actually, it didn't feel like it was a feud ender. Just the nature of the finish, kind of getting that kind of flash pin, really feels like maybe Takeshita could come back and set something up for Dynasty, which I would be fine these two having it. And if you think about it in singles terms, it's 1-on-1. I know the tag match, he got the pin on Kenny at Wembley, but 1-on-1, and again, they love a trilogy, said many times. So it wouldn't surprise me if they rolled that back. And if you're going to be kind of killing time with Kenny before you get to the match with Okada, then that's fine. Takeshita is a great kind of person to kind of put in there in between. I just thought this was like, and again, that story of going for the midsection, which apparently doesn't process protein now, that part of his intestine that was removed. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, the way he delivers what is clear bullshit, but does it in the most convincing way possible. I'm in admiration of someone who can do that. I think I try and do that quite a lot myself as well. But the thing about it is everything was just executed brilliantly. That's the thing about this. And it's almost like got nice parallels to Swerve and Ricochet to a degree, where there's such a high degree of accuracy from two guys who are just fucking tremendous. And again, it's this thing about and it's the thing that AEW doesn't realize it has, but it's just like, you have got the potential. If we're thinking about 3 matches that we've kind of raved about on the men's side of things, we're talking Hangman MJF, we're talking Kenny Takeshita, and we're talking what's the other one I'm thinking of that was also Fletcher. I suppose we get to Ospreay Fletcher as well. I'm sure there's something else in there in between. No, it's completely gone at this stage. But these are the guys, Swerve Ricochet. All of these are guys who you could put into a world title feud, and they all should be almost rivals with each other at various points in time, because they're all basically jockeying for the same spot. Yeah. And if they all get a win on each other, it's fine, because we all accept them as being kind of like that. These are like elite wrestlers at a top level with their own different strengths and weaknesses. And this, for me, just in terms of just watching this for half an hour, I wasn't bored. Trust me, we'll get to a half an hour match where I was fucking bored. And this one, I thought, absolutely delivered it delivered for what it needed to do, again without overshadowing things, and was kind of, you've got 2 of the best wrestlers in the world having a wrestling match for a long period of time. So yeah,
I think Kenny came into this with the idea of, I'm going to go over, we're going to tell me story, and I'm also going to win Takeshita's belt, so I'm going to make sure I put Takeshita over in loss, and it's less of a definitive win for Omega. I think that's part of the thought there. It's more of a fight from underneath, just grab it. Takeshita still looks strong. Omega gets the belt. We get to where we need to be. Whether Omega getting the belt's a positive, I don't know. Like I say, if we're doing the unification with Okada, that's a positive, I suppose. I just think there is part of me that just thinks it's a little bit beneath Kenny to win this belt at this point. He obviously has to celebrate and act like it means something. And I guess, in his career, he's won lesser belts and obviously tried to make them into something. But I think we're at the point in Kenny Omega's career where, especially coming out of Wrestle Kingdom, where it's like, we want premium Kenny Omega. We want Kenny Omega at the very top of his game, and that means going for world titles. I think we all want that at this point going forward. But as a sidestep on the way to it, some kind of belt collector thing where he unifies the two belts and then he goes for the world belt. Let's let it play out, as a wise man and Matty Edwards once said. We'll get there, but yeah, I think it was a gritty, harder hitting version of their match. The little bit slowed down for them, but obviously sped up in the right places towards the finish there as well, with like the high level offense only these two can do as well. So yeah. Great match that could have, like you say, amongst this pick of matches, could have also main evented as well. I think I'd go 4 on it, maybe 4.25 again. 4.25 actually seems fair. How about you, JP?
I'm going to probably go for 4, but then again, it sounds like a slight. It really isn't. I just don't think it was position. It wasn't, even though it was a long match, it wasn't set up as the show-stealing epic that it could have been, and that would have felt like overkill, and instead it didn't. It was a long match, but it didn't. So I'll go 4 stars, but that's not to say it was still, like, if you're thinking about the run that they go on for these 3 matches, that's absolutely fine.
Well, for those of us who like good wrestling and good wrestlers, this next match felt like it really was the main event, which was the cage match between Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. I mean, it's got to be said, what a job AEW have done with Kyle Fletcher, where you don't blink and be in this position now. Like the point at the start of the match where they were both stood on the opposite corners of the cage, and Ospreay's got his song going, and Kyle's putting his fingers on his ears. Like just looking at the two of them, he looks like it's his look, isn't it? It's the way he carries himself. Everett about him screams top guy now, and it feels like it happened overnight. But also, a lot of work went into it to get him to this point, and a lot of great performances from him earned him this point as well. I think in a company like AEW, where how many times I still feel like I'm the originator of the AEW doesn't have a roster structure, they just have a giant mid card. I feel like I said that first, and it's really hard for wrestlers to climb that card. It doesn't really happen. People get slotted in certain places and they move slightly up and slightly down, but there isn't really a roster that people climb, or at least there hasn't been. I think Kyle Fletcher has been the answer to that. I think he's genuinely climbed this roster, and is genuinely, how can you not say he's in a much higher position than he was going into this version of the character that he's been, along with the Don Callis stuff. But yeah, loads of gigantically memorable moments I'm sure we can go through in this one, JP, not the least of which being the Spanish fly off the top of the cage, which I'll be thinking about, and they'll have in highlight packages for a very long time. But I thought there was a lot of high level offense in this one, but also a lot of good work and good storytelling. Ospreay doing the whole, trying to go for the springboard on the outside and realizing he can't because of the cage, was a nice little bit of a storytelling, which yes, in fact, Ospreay does do in his matches. The back and forth between the two of them, like the went back and forth between actually wanting to win the match and just basically actually wanting to kill each other. I think they balanced that really well with the story they told JP, and I thought the finish said everything as well. Definitive win for Ospreay. It should be, if this is the feud ender, because Ospreay should be winning more definitive matches in AEW. And yeah, for my money, can stand to be a tad bit more selfish, but I guess his selflessness is what's got Kyle and a couple of us to this position as well. And Kyle had plenty as well. Nothing, bit like like you said, bit of a mirror image of the Ricochet match, in that like Kyle's been escalated so much here that getting that moment at the end where he gets to tell Ospreay how much he hates him. It was a bit WWE, but I think it worked for the moment, and it really put over that as well. And it was the cage match of the week also, I'll say, as I fear the wrath of Steph in the comments. But brilliant work, and there's loads to love about this match I'm sure we can get into.
I think it fucking mental is really where I wanted to go from this. Like the fact he had I thought he had his fingers in his ears because he didn't like dubstep, and I thought, well, I completely empathise, mate. I can go along with this as well. It was so OTT, much, in some way similar to the Hollywood ending match, but it being a cage match, the only cage match on the show. If there was another match that was going to get lots of blood, it would have been this one. And so I was kind of in the main fine with it. I didn't think, it lost anything for the blood because we had that in the Mariah match. Just like some absolutely fucking, like, it's just the levels of accuracy for some of the stuff that they're able to do, and the counters and various other like things they're able to kind of throw into the mix. Blood licking, I find genuinely disgusting. Like when he was licking the blood off the cage, I find that fucking gross. Like I'm never not going to hate it, but in many ways, it's about spectacle, isn't it? And that's what wrestling ultimately is about, and that's what this ends up delivering.
Got the reaction it intended, didn't it?
The Spanish fly spot you mentioned, that terrified me because their legs were tangled in there as well, and I was fearing the worst. When I saw it, I was like, oh, no. And then I thought, no, if something really bad had happened, I'm sure I would have heard through some ways of like...
And it's these two, isn't it? If the legs did get tangled, they'd still land all right. Like, I just think they're that good. I think Ospreay's that good that he'd still find a way. He's got the body control. He's like one of those free runners you see on Instagram when they jump off buildings and stuff like that. You're like, even if they fell, they'll be all right. They'll figure it out. I trust that in Ospreay. I did have my heart in my mouth still because it was fucking ballsy as a spot, but I would trust them to pull it off, and I'm sure they trusted each other.
Much like, Carl Fletcher taking a Styles Clash onto a load of thumbtacks, which was genuinely sharp. I was like,
I thought he fucked that. I thought I think his face was supposed to land more on where the tack, because the wrestlers can't always see where the tacks are. Like, that happens a lot with like powerbomb spots and stuff like that. But like when he turned over, it was just, they were stuck all over his body. And we know what the sausage is made. We know it's glue. We know it's not like, necessarily that they're stuck into his body, but it looks that way and it felt that way. And we all can imagine how that feels. Brilliant. Love that too.
Absolutely.
It was creative, wasn't it? It was hard hitting. It was mean. It was those things you've never seen before. You don't often get that, matches like this. And the bits I didn't like, I didn't love Davis coming out. WWE. To be fair, it's not even WWE, that's very AEW, because this company has not been able to have a war games without having somebody break out the cage or somebody break in the cage, and it's like, what's that? Sure, we're the different company. Can we not just make the cage infallible? You can't get in. That's it. Done. But instead, of course, he has to get in, and that did add a little bit of a wrinkle that I didn't love in the match, but it was in the end a minor point with how strong the finish was and how strong the work was.
That says a lot, really, because in many ways, I was like, I just didn't like it the moment he got involved. From the moment he started bleeding as well, I was like, mate, that's not necessary.
You're not in the match.
You do you as well. But the spot where he threw the chair to him and then delivered the hidden blade, I thought that was fucking God. That was great.
I was more worried about that. That's poor fucking hell.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's like just absolutely fucking full on. But in the main, it says a lot about them that it didn't detract from the match, because we still had several minutes to go after that. And there would be the obvious complaints people might have about them sort of kicking out of all sorts and whatever. But it's just like, well, in many ways, but it's a feud ender. It's AEW as well. It's kind of baked into the cake that you're going to get this type of a match, and you're going to get stuff that's absolutely batshit and all over the place. But I didn't mind. I just thought this was like so much fun. I didn't think it was as good as the first match they had on pay-per-view, which I still maintain was just absolutely fucking brilliant. However, though, it's like Carl Fletcher feels cemented. And what is the job of a lot of these feuds? Will Ospreay comes out now thinking you want to see him going for the world title. You want to see him in that mix. And in fact, the post-match promo was very much him saying, like, him wanting to go for it. You're like,
I like
good. Yeah, I like that.
I know the company tipped the hand and it's clearly Swerve. But if they didn't do that, you could make an argument for Hangman. You could make an argument for Ospreay. If it wasn't a title match, you could have made an argument for Omega. That's the negative of having too many belts. But you know what I mean? There's like a number of people, and that's good. That wealth of wishes, and it's a number of people who, by the way, are like world class at wrestling, which is not something we're about to say about the main event. You'd have that too. But I've got to say two other things I loved about the match. Obviously the finish, and we weren't totally high on the Tiger Driver story that they tried to tell in the past with AEW, just like we were massively keen on the Willie fall off the top rope story Ospreay told in Progress all those years ago. But it's still a thing that people know from AEW, and they know when he pulls out the Tiger Driver 91, it fucking means business. Perfect time to pull that out and make that the finish. Yep. So it was definitive feud ender, even if you are going to have a few kickouts along the way. And the other thing I loved, just because I'm a shithouse, and I'm sure they didn't mean it, and I'm sure they had to apologise when they got backstage, but isn't Cope's entire deal that he has a barbed wire bat? Or whatever he calls it. Isn't that... what's he fucking call it? Barbara Spike. Or whatever it's fucking called? What's it called?
Spike.
It's called Spike. Barbara was one of Foley's, maybe? I can't remember. Fucking Spike. Ooh, by the way, Ospreay did a tribute to
Janice was Abysses.
Janice, yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Barbara, Janice, they both sound like, to some of the women I saw at the tip today. Like, he fucking, like... like, I just love that he did that, because like, one, it tells you agent in an AEW fucking sucks, so we already knew that, and two, it probably just really pissed Cope off, because it meant they probably had to drop a spot from their match if they were planning it anyway. Just take one more thing from them. I'm fine with that. I'm all right with it, but it was a little bit weird that it was allowed. But oh well, fuck them. I don't care. This was a well better match. 4.75 from JP. I'd go that high.
I'd go 4.5. Like again. Probably like slightly tempering it down. I loved the first match so much, but then I think I didn't know what the level they could get to was, and again, probably some of the Davis stuff just took away a little bit. But ultimately, it doesn't detract away from what this feud has been. If you add in the tag match they had in Brisbane as well, and about how fucking good that was, as well as the Continental Classic match, like these are guys, and this is stuff again. It's the beauty. We spoke about this with Swerve as well. You can go back to this. It's absolutely fine at any point. If you
give it more time
with
this one, but you could.
As with all of them, really, you wouldn't want. I wouldn't you'd want to give it months before you go back to Swerve, Ricochet, or this. Just give it that bit of time in there.
But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, and I also think as well, like, and you know, Chris here in the chat mentions it as much as anything else, that they just thought this main is going to be shit. We need to get our fucking stuff in. We just need to deliver as much as anything else, because they're going to ruin the fucking ending. And
the positive spirit is probably more like, because I bet you Cope, and I'm sure he is, loved backstage, because he seems like a nice bloke. Seems like a misinformed bloke about, you know, his place in wrestling history and all that. We'll get into that. But he seems like a really nice bloke who's probably dead nice to the younger wrestlers, and they probably didn't want to ruin his main event. But like Platt, you're right what Platt says there, like they did. Because everything that they could possibly have done in that main event happened, including that spot in this match. But that's because, and you know the answer to that problem is, it's the old WCW problem, isn't it? It's the whole Kevin Nash going, well, I can't follow that. Well, that's because there's your answer, mate. Especially in a work rate company like AEW, that's why you shouldn't be in the main event. You shouldn't be following that. This should be your main event, or Tony Morai should be your main event, or Omega should be your main event, Swerve should be your main event. That's your answer, really, isn't it? It's not that the children are wrong. It's that the fucking old men are wrong. As we're about to get into, but yeah.
Imagine a world where Will Ospreay is AEW World Champion, and he's defending it against Fletcher, his kind of former protege, in their blood feud ending match to main event the pay-per-view, and you end it this way. No one's leaving disappointed. No one's thinking, well, wouldn't mind a couple of proper big stars who I saw on WWE TV in the main event. No. Everyone would be fine with this, and it would have ended at 3.5 hours. Yeah. And you'd have thought, yep, absolutely, fandabby dozy, all good, matches delivered. But that wasn't how it ended.
Well, we did get the Queen of the Ring interview, where the woman said that the one thing she found out about wrestling is that it's all predetermined, and you find out who wins and loses before the match. Nice one. Thanks for that. Thanks for saying that on air.
It's what?
After that. Brilliant. Yeah, I suppose we all know it.
Not me, mate. I don't know what you're on about. Like, I mean, I've had my suspicions over the years that
got much more
maybe
Triple
it's
H
not
video
on the up and
packages,
up.
mate. He'll tell you on telly. He'll tell you on a Twitter account now. He loves posting fucking. He posted a video of himself showing Jacob Fatu how to do his entrance. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. Showed the one of Rock and Travis Scott coming backstage after all of the goings on. They don't care over there, but I still, you wouldn't want it on you. That's the problem. They didn't need to give all these people microphones, I don't think, or at least not do it live. Don't think any.
Even the direct.
Really.
even the director was like, I've got nothing more to say.
Yeah, that was weird. He took over, didn't he?
He's done his best. Funny enough, his dad, John Avildsen, directed the first Rocky.
Oh.
Like, John G. Avildsen. Yeah. And so his son has done this.
Sly Film Club too. We'll cover it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm interested in watching Queen of the Ring. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've heard in the main it seems like it's perfectly fine without being kind of truly spectacular. The issue is the idea, though, one of them just going, that wrestling, it's not on the up and up, is it? Yeah. It's going, no, it isn't, is it? It's like, you would have thought you would have worked this out when you were filming making the movie about wrestling. No, they didn't. There were real fights in the ring.
Maybe you should know at that point. Bizarre.
You fucking people.
Yeah, shouldn't have aired, and shouldn't have given the opportunity for it to air. But hey ho, there we go. So that happened, and then we're circling the drain here to our main event, which should never be the case. At this, I mean, so WCW, isn't it? You know, considering we just did the WCW pay-per-view for the undercard to fucking kill it. And even here, it's not even WCW, but it's the undercard, and it's people who they're never going to give a shot on top. The undercard's full of people who legitimately are top guys. This main event, they got what they deserved here, and I've been fuming, to be honest, with the TV, because everyone with sense has watched these Moxley fucking Death Riders angles and the Willy Won't He with Wheeler Yuta, which they also did here, by the way, which was fucking garbage. But all of it, everything Cope on AEW TV since this latest comeback has been hot fucking garbage, and it's the 10% or the 20% of AEW that we all agree is terrible and needs to go away, even when the other 80% for the last 2 months has been pretty great, or at least good, across the board, and a marked improvement. I think even Tony Khan knows there's been a marked improvement in the product over the last while. But we all agree this was shit. But I've been annoyed because crowds have still been cheering it. And I hated that. When the crowd go wild for Cope and sing his fucking song and treat the Death Riders, actually give them heat, I'd rather they all sat on their hands, because at least that's a sign to the people in the back that this shit sucks. And it's the people in the arena saying it too, as well as all of us behind our keyboards. This was the night the people in the arena let you know as well. This was the night where, and we've always said it, that AEW TV audience or TV crowd does seem different than the pay-per-view crowd. The pay-per-view crowd come out, and they come out in these numbers, and this was a great number again. Over 10,000 for this pay-per-view.
11,000 for this.
11 for AEW. They came because AEW's pay-per-views is a mostly untarnished brand. AEW's pay-per-views, they don't really do bad ones, and even when they do bad ones, they're still pretty good by the historical standard of pay-per-view. And I think those crowds expect that, and they expect everything that we got on the undercard of this. They don't expect shit like this in the main event, and they treated it with the contempt it deserved. Yes, they were tired. Yes, they'd seen it all, which probably wasn't a factor that did help either. But I think if Kenny Omega's match was in this spot, or any of the other matches were in this spot, it would have done better, because people would have been more into it, more invested, and kill Jester JP, ever stolen your line? Garbage, absolute garbage, and they struggled, and they deserved to struggle. Nothing they did could get over here, and I hope it was a sign to them and a sign to the people in the back. Rubbish. Don't think that covers it.
Without spoiling the post-scrum press conference, seeing Tony Khan's response to this, saying about how thought he was great because he was doing his everything is awesome speech at the end of it, and whatnot, it was just like, mate, you need to read the fucking room. And it reminds me.
He's got to know.
He does. As with a lot of things, when we come out with all of the criticisms of AEW, it's very funny how eventually they come round, they start making changes for it, and things get better. There is a style of wrestling that we have spoken about in terms of this what would be considered a relatively modern style of wrestling that's very different from WWE. And these guys thought they could basically go out and deliver a WWE style main event, which felt like it was very unearned, that the crowd were enthusiastic. I mean, it was just fucking silence, which was hilarious. I was so bored watching this. I was just fucking bored, and it was good to see 11,000 other people being bored. What I was secretly disappointed about is people just didn't go, fuck it, should we just get out of here and go for a pint? That's what I would have wanted. Just a visual of just some bloke looking at his watch going, get a pint? Yeah, we're just going to head off.
If this had been in one of those like Chicago venues they run, which were nowhere near the center of Chicago, I think people might have gone to the car. Like, to be honest, I perversely enjoyed it. I was enjoying watching them struggle. I was enjoying watching Cope not get over. I was enjoying people be bored of Mox, because we're all bored of Mox. Fucking Martin Bushby, who does a Moxley podcast, and shout out to him, Dickie and Brandon from New Jersey, and they're talking classic Mox, and they're talking, Eagles don't hunt flies, get it at poisonrunner.ca. Fantastic podcast. I've been a guest on it. I'm not really a Moxley fan, but they are. Even Martin couldn't really defend it. He's kind of like, yeah, Mox has been bored in the last couple of years. He has been running through the motions, not to put words in his mouth. And I think that's caught up with him too. I think he is Steph's big conspiracy point, and I think she's totally dead on with it. Moxley only has the belt as just a way of Tony trying to keep him happy. It's a way of Tony being Tony, and being too nice for his own good, and letting someone walk all over them who just should not be world champion at this point. Everything about it's terrible. In fact, he doesn't even show the belt off. That it's in the briefcase like this. That's like a genius thing. You think up at fucking afters after a drum and bass night at 4 a.m. What the real heat would be. It would be the real thing. We don't show them the belt, and then when they do see it, it'll get a big reaction. No, it just makes your company feel like it doesn't have a fucking world champion for months and months and months on end of this shit. Fucking Cope thinking he's we'll get into the close of this match, thinking he's like this genius for coming up with this idea of, well, Moxley's got this stable, so what I'm going to do is take them up one by one, and we're going to tell a story with this man. The story stinks. Nobody wanted to see it. Nobody. The 12th attempt of doing fucking Will Yuta show a bit of heart. Like, there's nothing there. Not on the level that they want it to be. Not as this type of wrestler or this type of character. Will Yuta needs to go back to the Indies where he was a top star, or go to ROH. I think that's too harsh. Go to ROH and rebuild them as like an in-ring wrestler who doesn't do this garbage, because he just doesn't fit on all of it. Like, when he walked out, I groaned like the crowd groaned. Nobody gave a fuck. Nobody cared about the story. Oh, nope. Jay White hit Cope by mistake. We're going to pay that off soon. I just think poor Jay White is going to be locked in a story with fucking Cope. Although maybe that's better for Cope because it'll be in the mid card and not in the main event. But I think Jay White deserves better than even that. And then down to the three-way the match became, which did get spoiled for me, JP, because during the card of Brody, I got a bit bored. And I was a bit annoyed because I couldn't Google, I couldn't do anything on my phone. I just can't help it. I'm one of them people. I might be 40, but I'm a millennial like the rest of them. I can't do anything without doing something else at the same time, and I couldn't help myself but go to Cage Match and try to look at the match guide, which is non-spoiler. How good are these matches? Is it a match that's recommended that I really need to keep paying attention to? Is this going to get any better? One, more fooled me, there were no ratings because it was too early for it to be on there. And two, I saw in big letters that the main event was a three-way. So I was waiting for Christian to come out. And when he came out, that was funny too, because that felt like maybe that's a positive sign. That was an admittance from Tony Khan that having our own fucking Money in the Bank briefcase is the most fed thing ever. And I've got time for a lot of things the Fed does these days, or at least some of the things the Fed does these days. But it's the least thing AEW should be, is Fed. And that briefcase going away, or I think Trevor Dane called it the Money in the Bank clipboard, which is basically what it is. Yeah. At least it's going away, and that's how they got to it. And they had the daft finish of, I guess, we're protecting Cope by Christian taking the fall and being choked out by Moxley. But that didn't get over either, because really, like, people were fantasy booking that. Cope wins and then Christian takes the belt off him. I know I've been turned on Christian. I don't hate Christian, but his peak in AEW was 2 years ago now. Like, it's been diminishing returns for the last while. The jokes ran out. Oh, I'm your dad. Like, yeah, all right, mate, fine. Do that on Collision. Like, he didn't belong in the match. He didn't belong in the briefcase, but at least, or the clipboard, but at least it's gone. That's the positive I can say coming out of this, because there is very little else positive to say about the match. Shite.
That is.
Didn't get the message.
Absolute shite.
Sorry. And Robot JP's done a run into it to let us know.
I thought I was doing so well with this.
Careful, the louder you go, the worse it gets.
Right, I'll quickly refresh.
But yeah, it fucking sucked. And I agree with the chat. Sorry, I got distracted with my own bullshit there. As Steph says here, yeah, counting down the days till Mox is gone. I agree. Simon says, I sadly don't think Tony will listen to the criticism. And I also agree that it's being done to appease Mox. Yeah, I think Steph is dead on about that. But I think it's going to create the most almighty of bust-ups when the shit does hit the fan. And you can't let Mox continue to be your world champion just to keep him happy. Maybe they're waiting for Derby, but then again, like, really, like, just because you've got it written down on a bit of paper that Darby's going to be the next world champion, you don't have to do it. You can pivot, as a wise man in Friends once said. You don't have to do it. Sorry, still a bit roboty, JP.
Still roboty. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? I will do a very, very quick refresh, but I echo all of your points.
Yeah, thanks. Yuta can fuck off, Simon says. Yeah, they're done. Done sod all with him for the years, and he's achieved the same amount. I agree. Dylan saying it, WWE would only pick up Mox for a Shield tribute match one last night. They'd pick him up though, wouldn't they? They'd use him. And they do that tribute spot, and they do that tribute match, and he'll get a run there. Whether it'll end well, I don't know, but stranger things have happened. Punk went back. I think Mox would absolutely go back and have a nice little 3 to 4 year retirement run. At which point, maybe we'll get another podcast where he's complaining about Tony Khan, and then maybe when he leaves WWE, he'll do another podcast complaining about WWE. I think Mox is, I don't know. That's just Mox being Mox, really. But I've had enough for him. He at least needs to fuck off for 6 months. We could all do without him for a little while. Monzo in the clipboard. Simon says here, I like that. That's a good. Could be the title. We'll throw it in as we wait for JP to come back and sort his issues. But yeah, post match, I suppose we're about to get into as well. I think that's all you can say on the match. Let us know in the chat. What would you give it as far as a star rating goes? 1 for me, and I don't go that low often in matches with professional wrestlers. Maybe 1.5 and an absolute push, because they are still, not trainees on a trainee show. But I think this is about as low as you can get, especially with the expectations that come with being an AEW World Title match. Simon goes dud. That's strong. Steph saying the match was dire shit, but you cheer so hard when Swerve came out. Hope he destroys it, Mox. I'll cheer if we have a human JP back.
Is it human JP? Please tell me it is. Thank God. I've just changed the headphones. Weirdly, I started to notice a noise happening with the new set of headphones I put in there, and every piece of tech I touch is jinked. I can echo so many.
Your thoughts on the post match? We'll get into JP. Spend any more time on the match.
Thank God for Swerve in there. Like, thank God for Swerve kind of saving it and showing us a direction that this company should be going in, because I wanted to tie back to something Steph had said that. I remember saying it to me one of the last times I saw her, just like about this issue with Mox. And I was watching this going, I don't think I'd miss him if he was gone. No. Because it just feels like I really wouldn't, because it feels like this company, with all of the other wrestlers that we've mentioned throughout the night, I've been making this extra point of it, because it just really hammered home on this, of just going, this is the kind of stuff they need to move so far away from on this. And Swerve just feels like a world away. And he should be in his promos completely slagging off the Death Riders and just going like, what the hell are you lot? You're just pure shit. And
maybe he can save it. Maybe he can pull something out.
He probably would have been him coming out and him doing the Swerve stomp onto Moxley through the crowd. That was one of the things I just thought, well, at least this crowd would have felt like, good, at least we're going in this direction. Whether or not, I'm not saying they're called an audible for it, but it did feel like it left people on a slightly happier note, because the idea of Moxley just winning just felt so depressing. Because again, it's just all of this time and trouble to humour someone who doesn't really want to be there. And I don't know what he is at. He feels like he is taking stuff away from this company at this point in time, and they need to do something about this. It's just like, mate, if you don't want to be here, then go. Because I don't think he's going to accept pay-per-view numbers, because they already have a roster of other guys that they can go into. Because this was just, it was the same thing with... Sorry, go on. If
Darby wants to go off and fucking climb Mount Everest, brilliant. Plant an AEW flag on it. At that point, mate, you're not the world champion then.
No.
Is that going to be his reward? He gets to. He shouldn't be. It's no slight. I love Darby, one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. He's not a world champion guy. Not everyone is. That's fine. He's one of the greatest upper mid cards you could have. You can slot in the challenger role every now and then, but we better not be fucking waiting for him. We better be killing Jester and going to Swerve, and we'll just move on. I'm not sure I believe we are, but I hope we are, and I hope Swerve can pull something more interesting out. And yeah, it was a nice spot at the end, him diving didn't come off perfectly, the dive off the side of the crowd and such, but it gave a bit of hope for the future, and that's all we've got. Because
better than anything in the match.
Yeah, it really did leave a bad taste in the mouth, I think, for most.
It did. Yeah. And the reason, and I get the criticisms, because one of the things I did is I checked the Discord, like once I'd finished the show, and I thought, I'm going to have a look at I'm just going to see what the general opinion is. And there was a couple of comments about, but there's so much good on this show. Why are we focusing on the ending? It's the same with any piece of entertainment. If the ending is bad, it taints everything else. We've spoken about, say, Game of Thrones. We don't talk about the first 5 to 6.5 of 5.5 series of it being great and go, well, that early stuff is really great. The ending is what you're left with. And the ending of this just felt it left like a bad taste in the mouth. It really did. And again, like if you're thinking to yourself, like if there's a big sliding doors moment happening at Dynasty, you keep the belt on Moxley to then put it on Darby Allin at All in Texas. I'm not convinced that will sell any amount of tickets. I'm not convinced that the crowd will react in a particularly different way. I'm not remotely convinced that Darby Allin, as good as he can be, is a main event wrestler. If you go to Swerve, then you've got options. Basically, you think you can go with Ospreay, you can go with Hangman, both of which feel like proper main events for a big fucking show, for a company wanting to prove itself as being different from WWE, with like modern wrestlers in there and ready-made challengers to come after them as well. And it's like there's a big decision to be made here, and it's just fuck the spreadsheet. Whatever the spreadsheet says, the spreadsheet is wrong on this. That's not the direction. Moxley is not the direction. It's been proven to be the case. And even on TV, there's a recognition with the shortness of these Death Rider moments that we've seen as we've gotten closer to the show, that it's the other stuff that people have been interested in when it's come to the card. And I think that is sold. I think there's people who wanted to do the sing along with the H song. Why? Because they did it in Australia. And there's a copycat
that didn't even get a
extra
reaction, really. Like, that was quite sad. He sat back and acted like it was a moment. It wasn't a moment. People didn't know the words enough and weren't loud enough for it to be a moment. It was just embarrassing and sad. But
just wanted to copy it, but fuck me, it was exactly really dreadful. And you can't fuck the ending on these pay-per-views. It leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, and you're asking them to spend a lot of money. So therefore, if the one thing you need to nail is your main event, because that's what people remember. And they didn't here, and it should be a warning sign to them of like, actually, this is stuff we need to move away from, and there's wrestlers they need to move away from.
I've read a little bit of like our Discord. I have listened to a couple of other podcasts since the paper. I try not to usually, but I'll listen to a few. I can't think of anyone who doesn't share that opinion. Everyone does, so I'd like to hope Tony Khan does as well. But yeah, outside of that, all-time pay-per-view, it's just a shame about how it ended.
Yeah,
but like you say, that is often the thing that most remember.
If we didn't have that, we would be speaking in terms of being this one of the best top to bottom AEW pay-per-views ever. Like we would do if it ended at that cage match. It's just you add something like that into the mix, and it's very hard to think that way in any serious terms.
Yeah, agreed. Any notes from the Tony Khan post scrum? I didn't actually watch it myself. Usually I do, but I've fell out of love with them. At least he didn't do the fake presser thing with the the podcast thing they do with Renee and that sitting around analysing the show. We didn't get that. It did go straight to Tony, I believe, or straight to Swerve, was it? I believe. It doesn't seem like there's much quotables or much news coming out of it for me.
Not really. I mean, the quote from Tony Khan is the most Tony Khan quote in the world, which is, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. This is him talking about the main event. Both are main event quality wrestlers. With AEW Grand Slam Australia, I thought we put together a great show with great moments. And for where we're going next, I thought it made a lot of sense. And for where we've been, I felt it was a fantastic main event. Tonight they delivered, and it's been an absolutely fantastic, great match. Overusing the word fantastic all the time here. I really believed in it. I really believed in the story. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. Like, it was just the usual nonsense. And they didn't have Tony Storm come out because she's in no condition to come out. He is.
It's David Moyes coming out and going, they worked hard. I mean, they worked hard.
Yeah, I won't criticise my players. They worked really well. Like, no, mate, criticise your fucking players. Sometimes we
need more quality in the squad. But the ones we've got worked hard. Don't want to annoy them. Great moment. So fuck off, Simon says. I agree. That's about it for that. As far as Dynamite goes, unless something's been announced while we've been on air, all we really know is MJF and Kenny Omega are both speaking, which could be good, could be bad. Who knows? We'll see where that goes as far as Dynamite this week goes. But before we do get out of here, some other quick news and notes around the other parts of wrestling. Won't spend much time on WWE this week, I don't believe. I did watch a bit of Raw last night. I thought didn't really put the best foot forward in Madison Square Garden. I got bored. About an hour in, it was just Jey Uso came out to a nice pop, as he often does, and it was a nice heartwarming moment. He had the crowd going, he had kids dancing with him, and then he worked Grayson one. If he didn't, he wrestled the other one. Don't correct me, I don't care which one of them it was. I didn't care. And then, they very much lost my interest. I did go back this morning on Steph's recommendation and watched the Punk Rollins cage match main event. I might have said something like life's too short to watch a Seth Rollins match, and then Matty announced the 3-star match for the mixtape this weekend, so apparently life isn't too short for a Seth Rollins match, but it was good. It was very much it was a Jimmy Rave CM Punk clone, I felt like, in a lot of ways. A lot of the similar stop me fair this before with Punk Bret Hart knockoff spots in there with Punk, but they told a good story. Maybe it's a few too many near falls for the type of story they were telling. But again, you've got to do that these days. And good performance from Seth. Good match. And yet, obviously the big moment was Reigns coming out and pulling Seth out and beating the shit out of him, making Seth look like a scrub once again, which is one way to shoehorn Seth into your WrestleMania build, which is to make him appear and in shoot B 2 levels below Roman and Punk, who was the real money. And yet I don't know if you saw it, JP, they did an angle with Paul Heyman checking on Punk in the cage, which made Roman really jealous, and he came in and speared him. Story, cinema, capital letters, all of them. And I'd actually agree if that was the match we're setting up, but very much the 3-way seems to be the direction.
It is, sadly, and to use a phrase of yours, it is subtraction through addition by putting Rollins into that. There's a match there between Roman and Punk. You put halfway through that Mania card, and it'll feel like a big fucking match. I did see it in terms of the YouTube clips and whatnot that they put up on them.
Yeah. Not great. On them. Wasn't the best cage match this week. So
God, no.
But it was good.
No. But it seemed perfectly fine. The ending, it was predicted, wasn't it? And it felt eminently predictable that we were going to get Roman doing this and his appearance, and the crowd were always going to react to that type of stuff. I just wish it was the one-on-one. I'm not mad on the 3-ways, although again, a part of me in that main event wondered, imagine if we just had Christian in here as just something else to think about rather than these 2 pricks who are in there as well. But going back to that sort of, at least there is a direction in place. It's just it just doesn't feel like a big match because of Rollins being added to the mix. It dilutes it so much, as opposed to it feeling like a Mania match where you can springboard into an extended feud between these two with Paul Heyman at the center of it.
Agreed. Interesting, there was no Cena or Rock. I mean, there was none advertised, and Cena's not expected until a London Raw next week. It's a weird time. Not only are the Americans an hour earlier or an hour later, or however it works out that the shows are on at midnight instead of 1 a.m, but on top of that, we've got a few European Raw and SmackDowns coming up as well. And the London one's the one where we're going to get the big Cena return. Like, Rock did the tweet that made everybody think he was coming out, because he was like something like, see you down the road, Mana Tequila, whatever the fuck he posted, which also might mean he's just fucking off now and he's not coming back and he's going to leave Cena to his own devices. Who knows with Dwayne? He's had his personal writer fighting some of his battles on Twitter this week as well. But a bit of a wild one that they had such a hyped and, rightfully hyped, even by us, angle. We're not getting any payoff for it until next week, and then it's going to be a taped Raw from London. The crowd are going to go wild. It's a cool thing for us to get, isn't it? It's a cool thing to happen in the UK, and it'd be great to be in the building when John Cena comes out as a proper heel, as a main event act for the first time. But odd one that they didn't call an audible. You would have thought MSG would be the one. Travis Scott must have been busy.
Yeah, it's MSG, for God's sakes. I mean, I was saying this last week. I was like, actually,
sold a lot of fucking tickets there as well. Not enough for Gareth, but a lot.
Oh, they need to be going with this now. I mean, I was seeing, John and Way were talking about this, about whether or not is he going to get cheered. I'm predicting he is, because I think he's just going to deliver so much stuff, and our lot are going to just go, this is a version of Cena we've never seen, and this could be a hell of a lot of fun. And I'm in the main, I'm kind of like fine with that. I think at Mania it's going to be a really pro Cena crowd. I think they're just going to. I think we're going to get that.
No.
I think so. It's going to be hijacked,
on Weekend Show,
and Matty is going to be part of said hijacking. Like front row centre, mate. If he can find his way down there, he will work out how to do that as well. But it is weird. Like, what were they advertising? Is they're both going to be under the same roof or something like that? For
hey, Cody promo was really good on SmackDown. We haven't got SmackDown on the notes, not the time or the inclination to go through it, but yeah, good heartfelt promo. Cody's going to give you that.
The thing I can't understand, why isn't it live from London? It's Netflix, for God's sakes. Just have it live.
I thought it was.
Oh, it is live. It's going to be live on Netflix, like live in London. It's not going to be like on a tape delay. So
I guess when I'm saying it's
the same
taped,
time as the States.
I'm thinking of the old world, aren't I? Where it would be live for us, maybe on TNT, but tape for America. I guess it will be live. It'll just be on in the middle of the afternoon. That's the other problem. Yeah. It'll be what, 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon? No, 4. It'll be 4. Fuck, these clocks changing a blown by. Yeah, 4 in the afternoon. I guess it'll be live in America. That's not ideal either. Live on Netflix, yeah. Platt says, yeah. I'm thinking of the old world. I don't know if that's better or worse. Like, it's not then it's not prime time. Does that matter in the Netflix world? I don't know. Still weird.
They know how to watch things back on demand. Like, honestly to God, they can handle some. A couple of people will be at work and they'll sneakily be watching like the end of Raw when it's like 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm sure that they can happily live with that. There'll be people going, "Oh, this is great. Live fucking wrestling on at like 3 in the afternoon here."
I think for something this big, though, you want it to be prime time. You want the most out. There's always going to be the whether it's, over here we're not asked, are we? If something's on and we want to watch it, we'll watch it. Americans are very of there. It's not at the exact time and the exact place. I just won't bother. There's a percentage of people who do that, and I think something this big. Don't know. I'm not sure if it's, but I guess it's just the way things landed. And that's what happens when you come up, you pull John Cena turning heel out of your ass the week before the pay-per-view because Cody tells you no. I think that's really the reality of what's happened, isn't it? But yeah, it's SmackDown. It's on tape delay. Platt says, yeah, so that must be what I was thinking of. But yeah, you do get confused if it's on a different channel, a different day, even if it's one up. Yeah, I
more understand it with SmackDown because that being on USA, that there might be that, even if like we should be doing this. But I still maintain, I think, dare I say it, there's a few Americans who can just get with the program and watching some shit in the afternoon. I think they can. They can. Dangerous game. They're like guns. What can I say? Like trying to work out what Americans like a lot of the time is just like a fucking, it's just pissing into the wind, isn't it? He says, insulting an entire nation of 350 million people, but there you go. Not the first time I've done that.
Apart from the president and the guns and some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Any other news to get into before we get out of here, JP? Yeah. Roadblock, I see we've got here. Is that it? Oh, yeah, that's from the theatre, isn't it, tonight?
The theatre at MSG. And I think it's a notable show. It'll be something, hopefully, that I'll be giving the results on the midweek news dump tomorrow, but also at the same time, it'll be hopefully something we'll mention on the weekend show when we do that on Friday. There are some betting odds in place. When you look at the card, you think, actually, there should be there's some stuff on here that I'm intrigued by, but then I'm a masochist. So, Obafemi is minus 3,000 to beat Moose, who's plus 900. That's just for the NXT title, by the way. So the X Division title is on the line, but it's a mad novelty value to that. Stephanie Vaquer is minus 500 to beat Julia and
both
become
the Monroe,
to become the women's and North American women's champion. As they should do. They should have them on Raw to hype it on there. It's all part of the same sort of family, and both of them I think are actually main roster ready, particularly Stephanie Vaquer. I think there's a massive upside to her. The Hardys are taking on Fraxium. This is for the TNA Tag Team Championship, so you'd expect them to win. The Hardys are minus 600. Fraxium plus 350. New York City Street Fight, Von Evans is minus 1,000. Ethan Page plus 500. I don't quite get these odds. I deal in old money, but I don't want to get in an argument with Liam about this. And then there's Jordan Grace, who's minus 600 to beat Roxanne Perez, who's going to be up on the main roster anyway. So it feels like this is her farewell and putting over Jordan on the way out as well. But you look at that card in isolation, if that was like a NXT PLE, I'd be perfectly fine with that. It certainly looked a damn sight better than the last one they put together, which was kind of dull. So yeah, they're the betting odds for that. If you fancy betting on Roadblock, but you have to do it for that betonline.ag.
They'll have to go back in time. By the time this is out, it'll happen. But
yeah,
yes,
they would.
If you were up late with us, you could potentially get your bet.
If you can do that, lads, then you need to get on the Biff Tannen train, don't you, and start using that betting book and fucking putting it on all sorts. Certainly, and again, I'm strongly dating this, don't bet on Constitution Hill like I did today, who fell at the third fence, the useless shite. That was my £5 bet from fucking Sky, free bet from Sky Bet, gone out the window there as well. But yeah, we have
Drew McIntyre. Don't waste your money on him, just from personal experience.
Yeah, exactly. Betting him to lose when they do clash at the castle, the Hydro.
Or a tennis got lost that night.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, yeah, for Elimination Chamber. Yeah, you were one of them, weren't you? And I had to halt betting on that and all sorts. We have had, though, and I don't think you can bet on this, sadly, but it should be something you should be able to bet on, New Japan Cup 2025, which the first day of it, they had to cancel because the ring post was broken. Yeah,
really?
New Japan.
I missed that. Sorry, I've been out of the loop. I've been busy moving this weekend. How did I miss that? Really?
So they had to cancel it and do a talk show in the centre, refund it, and then they added on extra matches. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's
better than watching Evil, isn't it? Like, so, you'd still win.
Yeah. Oh, it's a win for that one.
So what have you done? How have they rejigged it? This is all news.
They were doing a next night in Kurikan. They just took off some of the multi-mans and I think just added on some matches. Because it was only 2 matches from day 1 and 2 matches from day 2 and then 4 on day 3. So they're now up to pace with it as well. I think this one on here at the minute, they had, Yuya Uemura defeated Yoshihashi. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Rohei Oiwa. And in there as well, what was it? Oh God, I'm just trying to see if I can get to the finish on here as well. What was it? Yeah, Finlay defeated Evil. So Evil's out. So all good on that front at the minute, which leaves us, I'm looking at the brackets, and they never do these brackets easily. On one side of the draw, you've got David Finlay versus Yuya Uemura in a quarterfinal. You've got Zack Sabre Jr. versus Taichi, who defeated... Gabe Kidd versus Taichi's happening next, and the winner of that takes on Zack Sabre Jr. So you'd imagine that would be Gabe Kidd. Then you've got Shota Umino versus Jeff Cobb, I think, on the other side of the draw in the quarterfinals. And Shota Umino's come out. He's got his new gimmick now where he's basically shaved his head and just isn't pandering to the crowd, and it seems to be working. Yeah. Good for him. You've got Driller Maloney versus TJP. This is like a last 16 match. And Oleg Boltin versus Shingo Takagi in the other one. And the winners of that face each other. So it looks like Dan Maloney in there. Very Brit heavy. And I don't want to include David Finlay in the mix because German fans will be on. I remember Strigger saying to me, I was like, David Finlay, he's a Brit. And he's like, no, mate, he's German. And he was saying it seriously. I was like, I can see what he was saying on that one. So it looks like they're the match they've got on there. I mean, I think David Finlay's been seen as universally the best chance of winning it. I'd like to see fucking Gabe Kidd. Why not do something different with it in there? But at least some halfway interesting options that I'll only watch until we get to like the final couple of days. But I haven't heard about any matches that have been exactly pulling up any trees in there as well.
If I'm still in that, I say part of the world, I know it's still a 6-hour flight, but if I'm in that part of the world, I am looking at the G1 finals. I don't know if this is giving it away, but I think Joe's going to be over there as well around that time. I might have to edit that out. He wouldn't like me putting that out there. Don't track Joe down in Japan, anyone who does hear this edit. But yeah, I'm going to be hopefully there. So hopefully they pull a finger out and it's a good G1 this year. Doesn't look like a great New Japan Cup this year, but we will see. Yeah. Outside of that, what else we got? Your boy Hammer's a free agent, I've told you.
He's a free agent. I know.
Gigantic.
Feels like he only signed with TNA a very short while ago on here. Yeah. But yeah, January 2024, he signed with them now. He's wrestled his last match. That was at the end of February in there. He said that he's no longer under contract to TNA. His last match with the February tapings. Grateful for the opportunities that came our way and excited for what's next. I would imagine what's next and what possibly should be next is NXT. Like that he feels like he's kind of tailor-made. I think that's his ceiling.
But then why would you leave?
Well, I think there's just probably the security as much as anything else. And it's because it'll be per date appearances and stuff like that. And would they want to actually TNA put them under contract? They've let a lot of people go who are under contract. They're still operating on very much like per date appearance stuff. So maybe there's security with that, but it feels like he's just got the look for NXT. Maybe it's just me. He appeared on NXT before as well. So I don't know. It just feels like that's where all signs are kind of pointing to there as well. Yeah, he's wrestled twice, actually. He's wrestled Obafemi and Tony D'Angelo. And I think if you think about it, they probably just try out matches, give or take. So, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Maybe he'll turn up in New Japan. Not bloody likely, exactly. I did mention it earlier on. Queen of the Ring, box office in here. 380,000 across the weekend. It was in 825 cinemas, according to Box Office Mojo. Number one was Mickey 17, which you've probably seen posters for with Robert Pattinson. That's been around the place. Captain America Brave New World, which I watched part of last weekend, and frankly was fucking boring. Like, couldn't be bothered at all in there as well. It's not wide distribution. It debuted at number 16. It's not going to be there for very long.
He said that, didn't he? The director was like, oh, yeah, it's in cinemas for 4 more days. Please go see it. It's like, wow. It's that level, right? It
is that level. And so it's only going to be major cities where you're going to get to see it. And this feels like a film that's designed for streaming, if I'm going to be honest. Like the kind of thing that people, if it appears on one of the major streaming platforms, that they'll watch it and go, this seems like all right. It'll kill a bit of time. If it appeared on Netflix,
could we pair it with for a film club? Don't know if it can carry one on its own, but could we pair it with something?
There was, I want to say, a French film that was about a French woman who wanted to join WWE. And I can't remember the name of it at that point. I want to say it was called something like Queen of the Ring as well. So there was one of those. The Wrestler, you could team it up with that.
I was going to say, yeah. I don't say like, I hear you, JP, but football in the groin has got a football on the groin. I hear you, JP, but the Wrestler has got Necro Butcher in it.
Yeah, exactly. And this very much doesn't have Necro Butcher. It has a very big starring role for Camille, an AEW wrestler who never appeared at all this weekend.
Yeah, I didn't realise, because I knew Tony was in it from all the promotion they've done, but obviously she's in it and she's on the outs, and that's where the red carpet stuff's come from. Didn't know Jim Cornette played Sam Mushnick. That's news to me. I knew he was there, but I didn't realise he was in the film. And Trinity Fatu of WWE, also there.
Yeah. I mean,
are they promoting it too? Or did they be pushing it?
No. I don't think that. I don't think they are at all. I mean, they're weird. I mean, they even had Mickey Rourke. They got Mickey Rourke in there. Yeah, it would have been, because it would have been filmed like a good 18 months ago. Like this is a film that I think we've heard about the production for quite a long time for this as well. I'll see it. I think it'd be even the kind of film. I think it'll probably turn out to be generally okay without being spectacular, but it's not a cinema release film. Like there's a lot of films when you look in there at the box office that just sort of appear and disappear, and this is going to be one of them. And
especially post Oscars. This is the time films go to die, isn't it? It's right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not going to be, it's not going to be threatening a Nora or anything else, which I'm just looking at the box office for that. It's made 18 million, and it feels like an incredibly uncommercial film for that one to be out there. So, so that's how that's doing at the box office. And finally, the match that I think you wanted to see, that we all wanted to see at some stage. I'm very intrigued by this. I'm hoping Matty can go and see this. It's at WrestleCon. It's the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show, and they've announced Butterbean versus Minoru Suzuki with Dan Severn as special guest enforcer. And apparently Butterbean's got himself into good shape. He's like lost a whole load of weight. I don't think he's on the DDP yoga.
Really bad.
Yeah.
He's on death's door.
Really bad. Really bad. But somehow he's looking all right these days. So, good luck to him, I would say. So that's on. That is the kind of spectacle match you should be doing at a WrestleMania weekend. Good luck, Minoru.
Busy. I thought we were getting a year off, JP, but maybe we'll still give ourselves one, because it's not like it's high quality. But there's a fucking lot of stuff going on. I'm just looking at Voices of Wrestling, like in their event map. Like you go see Micromania Midget Wrestling in Vegas. Apparently, there's Lucha Libre going on. There's all the different tempos, isn't there? Dragon Gate USA is back. Defy running, obviously, and we've got obviously the GCW lot as well. Stardom in town again. It's West Coast Pro Wrestling. It's another busy year, which I didn't actually expect. TNA, I didn't realize TNA were running from the Cox Pavilion. Not been there. Unbreakable apparently is the show there. Divas and Drag Wrestling taking place. Prestige have got a show. The Man Lucha have got a show. Bloody hell. And that's all before Thursday. It's going to be another busy weekend, it seems, despite a lot of the scaremongering, I think, about the price of venues.
Yeah, there's so much. I'm just looking on it. Banger Zone Wrestling is a French company, for God's sakes. They're just going to lose. Oh, they do. Okay. They fancy losing their ass again at fucking Mania weekend. Why would they? Our friends at Tokyo Joshi Pro, they're there as well. At the same. Ed in San Antonio. That's a great joke. Like
Ed in San Antonio Productions, Podomania of Observer Radio fame. If people don't know,
oh, he was a character.
Can Matty get his own show? If he gets one, I think Matty should go.
I think so. I think he could certainly make an appearance for some of these. Bloody hell, what at Fear and WrestleCore in Las Vegas? Like it's fucking mental. Most of these I'm not going to be. Obviously, we're not going to be watching because we've got a degree of common sense in there as well. But yeah. Speak for yourself, mate. Compton Mania. I'm intrigued. Go on, count me in for that one in there as well. But
there's stand and deliver.
Yeah, Jesus. It's hey, this is WrestleMania for you as well. And if you're bored on the Saturday, you could leave Allegiant Stadium and go and watch Micro. Was it Micro Championship Wrestling was the last one? They're doing another show that day. But Simon says in Matty Mania featuring Tom Pistake.
There you go. Perfect. Well, there you go. It's going to be a busy weekend, and obviously, it gets in Butterbean. So, what could be a better WrestleMania weekend? But yeah, GCW and High Spots combiners, Platzers. Yeah, I thought it'd lead to less, but now there's more. Yeah, I was surprised to see the WrestleCon Super Show as part of the collective, but there you go. I'll be watching some of it, probably not as much as recent years. I don't think you're wrong.
Pick and choose. We've got a schedule in place roughly for how we'll be doing it. So
we're making Gareth the Indies man this year. He's in charge. So he's got good taste. He knows he likes Prestige, and I think he likes Defy. They're the good Indies. Them and Deadlock. There you go.
Anything on IWTV, basically. It seems to be. He's all over that.
Yeah, maybe a big catch up on the Saturday. We'll see how it goes. But there we go. That's another week for you. That's everything going on. Oh, Lex Luger's going into the Hall of Fame. There you go. There's a good news story to end on. Or a bad news story, depending on your view of Lex Luger. I think it's a nice story, and it was nice that Cody was the one to give him the news as well. But yeah, outside that, unless there's anything else, obviously, as we mentioned, we do have the pick and mixtape coming up this weekend. Bit of a tongue twister, but going to be a fantastic show, I am sure. Our suffering will be your enjoyment, but there's some solid matches in there too as well. Homework will be optional, but we'll be putting it on the Discord, and I'll pop it in the show notes if I can too. Film Club on Demolition Man is out, of course. Listen to that. Listen to us put Matty in his place once again. Grapple Lads episode 4 coming out towards the end of the month, but we'll be recording soon enough. And Carl Gax, King of the Mountain Pick, which we wait with bated breath for. On top of that, I didn't mention at the top of the show, should have been the lead actually. Time is back. That's going to be out very last day of the month. That's going to be released, just about squeezing into March. That'll be free for everybody on the main feed. March 1995. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling things by putting it on the poster. But hopefully, people are looking forward to that one. Got a lot of fun memories of March 1995. Retro's out. That came out last week. Speaking of not advertising things, midweek news dump every week. Spotlight live every week. Weekend show live every week. We do a fucking lot, don't we?
We do fucking loads. We forget this. And this is the problem we've had with some of the Patreon shows as we've looked at them. My God, have we done, like Demolition Man was a genuine, have we done a show on this before? And we've just completely forgotten about it. And that's one of the other reasons to sign up. Patreon.com/grapple. YouTube.com. Become a YouTube member. YouTube.com/@grapple.
Got a few more of them.
There is.
Rumba's been ramping up on that.
Oh, brilliant. And there is shitloads to listen to. Absolutely tons. So get on board, folks. Get with the program. in there.
Like I say, you can join us for free on the Patreon. Get yourself Retro and the other thing we throw for free, and you can join us from 99p on the YouTube. Also get yourself Retro over there, and again, a few nuggets we do throw out from time to time. But obviously, if you want the live stuff, you want the big shows, there are tiers available to you too. But yeah, thank you to our patrons as always. As we I was going to say head into another month. It feels like March only just started. It's the fucking 11th now. We're almost a third through. But thank you to the new patrons who joined us, the ones who are still with us. Thank you especially to our live patrons who've tuned in live as well with us late tonight. And of course, thanks to our kings and queens of the mountain, Conor O'Loughlin, Eddie Sarbanes, Chris Platt, Carl Geck, and Sophia Hitchcock. And yeah, unless there's anything else from you, JP, we'll catch you again next time.
Bye.
Good night, all.